Hello and welcome back to Blood and Ashes. This is episode 79. I'm your host Mo, and now in HD audio, and I'm joined as always by my indebted friends Willie.
I am not in debt ever.
And Jody.
I owe you nothing.
Oh wow, okay. I didn't mean indebted to me. You both resisted that intro so vehemently.
It's you just don't tell a South African they owe them money. You just don't do that. You get like all standoffish and like, what?
Mm-hmm. I don't know where you're going. Indebted. Something to do with the chapters. That's it. This podcast's over. We're leaving. Billy, let's go.
Yeah. It's actually, no, you go, Moritz. You go.
Yes, Jody, it always has something to do with the chapters. I don't know how many episodes ago I started doing this, but that intro is usually a direct reference to something that happens.
Can I guess? Because I know.
Oh, please do.
Well, then it's not a guess if you know.
Oh, well, yeah, it's not a guess. It's a factual announcement. It is Cadsuane who's indebted to Sorilea.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes, of course.
Of course.
Juicy.
Oh, yeah, the big meeting. That was lovely.
The biggest meeting ever. Have there been two more powerful characters meeting? And like, you can almost sense the electricity in the air when they're in the room together. It's I don't know if you can tell, but it was a highlight for me in this stretch.
I noticed.
Was it all the sexual tension, Moritz, between those two?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's undeniable. But what I did realize, though, is that because of my previously stated desire to read ahead, I had actually read this chapter quite a while ago. And when doing the notes and stuff here, I realized that I should slow down because I have already, in the time since reading these chapters and making my notes, some stuff has already gone a bit foggy. I mean, this is just a smaller version of what has happened since the previous times we read the series, right? I mean, we've proven time and time again that our memories are not that great. But my middle-aged brain had dropped some stuff between 3 weeks ago and now that I don't want to do anymore. So I am definitely going to slow down on my reading ahead.
No, I read that Sorilea chapter like 3 days ago and I didn't remember it at all. Yes. Now, of course, that you've reminded me, I'm like, yes.
Yes. I guess this is our fate, right?
Much like Japanese what's the word I'm looking for? Simplicity and efficiency. I do the just in time. I do it just in time. Every time, like the ink's not dry on the pages and I sit down to record. Therefore, I remember during the show.
I mean, that's ideal, right? I've even considered doing like reading ahead because it is kind of fun and like making my notes and stuff, and then quickly just like scanning the chapters again on the day that we do our recordings. But you know, with small children, that is a pipe dream.
Indeed.
Okay, so I'm definitely going to go back to my old ways of just reading the chapters as close as possible to the episode. I am hereby stating publicly that I will not be reading ahead anymore. And talking of going back, let's go back in time in everyone's favorite section called Callbacks. We had a quick chat about the Aiel societies and we all chose ours, and I mentioned the one mysterious Aiel warrior society. They are the Tain Sari, the True Bloods. The True Bloods are very secretive about what their specific purpose is. They do, however, excel at many things. They will scout, they dance well, capital D dance, but many, particularly the newer members, seem to have a need to prove themselves to the other warrior societies as good warriors. This is assumed to be due to the obscurity of the specific purpose the True Bloods serve to the clan chiefs. Terribly mysterious.
They were overflow. Like
my line.
It's the society's got but full, and then applications got kind of like cut. Like, nah, I grew up with that guy. I'd rather let him go. True Bloods. True Bloods.
He's a dick.
True Bloods. So they've got a point.
You've got a special purpose. Go over there.
You guys go on the special bus to the special sept.
Stay real close to the clan chiefs now, okay? No, don't wander off.
Yeah, they have no purpose. They just say it's mysterious, but they're just like doing nothing.
Then something I wish was a bit more mysterious is the origins of the Catherine wheel. Remember the firework? And Joe, you asked me why the Australians call it. And the firework is named after Saint Catherine of Alexandria, who, according to Christian tradition, was condemned to death by breaking on the wheel. And when she touched the wheel, it miraculously fell to pieces. Now, I was immediately intrigued, like, what does breaking on the wheel mean? Oh, boy, do I regret
going down that rabbit hole.
Do you know, Vil?
Yeah, of course. I'm part of the Chosen clan. We use that stuff all the time. It's when
you want to enlighten us?
I can just imagine
people apart with like raking and cracking the things.
There is breaking and cracking, but what it actually was is they would strap a person to the ground and then use a big wagon wheel, sometimes even edged with a sort of blade to cause more damage, and the executioner would use it to like crush their bones, so starting with their legs and their extremities and then their ribs and things. That's phase 1 of it, and sometimes people would die during that. In phase 2, they would weave the person through the spokes of the wheel, and the executioner would then either garrote them or decapitate them, or build a fire under the wheel, or just throw the wheel on a fire.
I'm sorry you told me. I regret this conversation.
I could not hold that into myself. Everybody now knows. I think this might damage Adrian's perception of this being a family-friendly podcast.
I regret this as much as I regret starting to watch The Hills Have Eyes the other night.
Oh boy,
you do that.
I don't know. I heard something. I was watching a YouTube video, and they were like, "Oh,
that's
crazy,
the number one
like,
problem.
How crazy
you watch
could it
YouTube.
really be?" And then I went to like, no. When that deformed dude found the baby, I was like, "Oh no, he's gonna eat the baby. I'm out of here. I'm done. That's too much. Don't eat babies."
Okay, let's move on to more pleasant things then. No more eating
Yes,
babies. Let's talk about everyone's favorite inn, the Queen's Blessing. How long did the party stay at the Queen's Blessing? Remember, we were talking about Perrin getting to... what was it in reference to?
How did Perrin know Gil and Lamgwin by sight so easily?
That's right.
This is where we started. Like,
That's
how much
right.
time, how well did they know each other?
Exactly. Do you want to take a stab? Do you want to take a guess at how long they stayed there?
17 days.
Willie?
2 months.
Okay, you're both quite off. It was 1 night.
Oh, damn.
It was one whole book, but it was 1 night.
When Moraine arrives and she heals, because remember we were saying, because she still has to heal Matt, she still has to get better. Like Moraine goes upstairs with Matt, heals him, and Matt comes straight down to the library and meets Loyal there. You were right, Joe. Like he came and he met Loyal, Perrin, and everyone hung out. But then Loyal immediately tells Moraine the story about the man that arrived at the steading and gave the message about like the eye of the world or whatever. And Moraine goes, "Okay, we're going to the eye of the world tomorrow. Loyal, we're going to find the Waggett and we're going." Like not wasting any time. It was 1 night they stayed there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So a valid question, like how well does Perrin or Lamgwin really know Perrin and Perrin know Lamgwin and Basil?
Well, they met.
They did.
And they just have good memories.
And I mean, it was eventful.
Recognition.
You know, it was eventful for Perrin, and it was eventful for the inn. You know, a lot of action.
Strange folk.
Lamgwin, they were protecting them, right? They knew that weren't the White Cloaks after them?
Right before that scene, they chase off a bunch of White Cloaks that are making a scene in the Queen's Blessing. Yeah.
So Lamgwin would remember that.
I had said that Grady and Neild helped Perrin make his hammer, his magic one power enforced hammer. And it's only Neild, it's not Grady. So I stand corrected. Aram's attack on Perrin is actually fueled by Messima, who convinces Aram that Perrin is Shadowspawn because of his eyes. So during that rescue, Aram, we got that right at least, that is at that point that Aram attacks Perrin, but it's because Messima got in his ear. And there's actually a reference to that in these chapters, which we will get to.
Mm-hmm. I wrote it down.
Ah, excellent.
I took note of it in my notes, surprisingly.
I'm so impressed and proud.
Thank you. That's what I was after. Your praise.
Then I had a question for you guys that I could not find the answer to online. How does Elias know Galene? remember when Elias comes to camp, he says, "Oh, watch that guy," and he calls him by his name and surname. So it's not like his type or something. He knows that guy. He says he's always quick to action. It's the only thing he knows. He's good at fighting, but that's the only path he can ever see. Just watch him. There's no reference anywhere about how Elias would know that about him.
Well, he was a warder. So he was traveling with Aes Sedai, probably went down there on some mission with his Aes Sedai, with, what's it, Rita? Or what's her name? Rena?
Sure. Rena.
Yes, her.
Yes. That was my guess from his warder days, maybe. But yeah, it was just interesting that he knew him by sight, by name.
Well,
I've got a question for you guys.
It could also have been that the wolves have been spying for Elias on the side and said, that 2 legs is no good. He's dodge ass.
Yeah, they wouldn't have known his name was Galeen.
No. Elias calls him by his first and last name. Like, he knows him. What's your question, Joe?
Well, yeah, like, listen, if you own, like, the beach property, right? Do you, like, own the sand and the water?
No.
Why
the Super Troopers reference?
I don't know. You said, I've got a question for you guys. And I thought, that's a good question. And I thought somebody would answer me, but nobody does.
No, man.
You guys suck.
God owns the water. It's God's water.
Thank you, Moritz. Just leave me hanging there.
The Ahilman that caught Swahil was in fact called Roland, so we got that one right. Then, the Black Arger Oaths. They are: I shall obey all commands given by those placed above me in service to the Great Lord. I shall prepare for the day of the Great Lord's return, and I shall hold close the secrets of the Black Arger unto the hour of my death. So all the questioning that Vandine and Adelaus are doing is going to yield nothing, because she is incapable of actually expressing. They can torture her to death and she wouldn't be able to say anything.
Well, 1 hour before she dies, she'll be able to start spilling the beans.
But she'd have to know that she's going to be dead in 1 hour.
Would she, or does her body know, and then she just releases it? The information.
Ooh, this sounds like a question for Gerald.
All right, somebody send Gerald a message. Or, Gerald, you're listening to the same.
Yeah, I was about to say, you are addressing him directly. So, the reason I looked those up is because we asked the question, why does Galena scream when she swears on the oath rod? And we were thinking, like, maybe it's got something to do with the old oaths being removed. And I did a bunch of research on it, and it seems like you have to specifically remove older oaths, and that is what causes pain. But the answer to this specific thing is literally in the next couple sentences in the book.
Yeah.
Like, the answer is right there. So it goes like this. Galena felt the oath settling on her as if she suddenly wore a garment that covered her far too tightly from her scalp to the soles of her feet. Throwing her head back, she screamed. Okay. Then, in part, that was because it suddenly seemed as if the burning of her skin was being pressed deep into her flesh, but mainly it was pure despair. Asked and answered.
Willie, you should pay more attention.
I know.
I'll take that one. That was my chapter. I'll take that one.
All right. Well, Moritz then. But Willie's a dark friend, so we'll lay it on him.
Why?
Willie, when you introduced the fact that Basil Gill has now been hired as Perrin's Shambayan, you said it's like his manservant. And then I read about it, and I thought, well, I listened to it on the recording, obviously, and then thought, but isn't there there's another title that sort of goes with it that to me was more of like a and I'm going to revert this back to Downton Abbey talk, like a butler and the first maid sort of roles, like a Carson and I forget the maid's name. The two titles are Shambayan and Shatayan. And the latter, so the Shatayan manages all the other servants, and the Shambayan is more of like a ceremonial title. So to put this in Downton Abbey terms, Nerim and Lopin are like a valet, like Mr. Bates. The Shatayan is more like Mistress Harfer from Camelin, and we meet another one in Kyrian in these chapters when Cadsuane arrives, the keeper of the keys or something like that. And so to me, the Shambayan, like Basil Gill, is more like Mr. Carson, like the butler who is there for ceremonial greetings and sort of...
I didn't watch Downton Abbey, but can you put it in a faulty tower sense for me?
It's like Manuel.
They're all Manuel.
Is Manuel there?
I was also thinking more of a butler. I was thinking like Mr. Belvedere. Remember that TV show?
Yes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
I haven't thought of Mr. Belvedere
No.
in decades.
And that is it for callbacks.
Oh, that's a nice and decent one. I didn't get one shitting out. That's great.
Congratulations, Willie.
Count
Billy's
that one as a
having
success. So then let's forge ahead to previously on Blood and Ashes. Perrin wakes up early, but the tent is already empty. Fail's up before him as usual. When he steps outside, Fail is already busy with her new staff. But Aram joins Perrin as he starts looking for breakfast. Perrin is struggling with not being able to do things for himself, and Aram tells him he must let other people do their jobs. If he does it himself, they feel like they are not doing a good job or not trusted. Perrin spots Basil Gill, who tells him he's been appointed by Fail as Perrin's Shambayan. On that topic, Bulwer has been appointed as their secretary and immediately shows knowledge of many useful things regarding the White Cloaks and Massima's location. Perrin can see Talonvor and Gil staring at them, and after Bulwer leaves, Perrin sends Aram to tell them exactly what Bulwer had said to set them at ease. He knows that something else is going on there. As Perrin makes his way around camp, he decides to make for the Aiel tents. He's intercepted by Javier Nurel of the Winged Guards, who expresses his concerns about the treatment of the Aes Sedai at the hands of the Aiel. It makes the Mayanas uneasy. Perrin tells him he'll go talk to the Wise Ones. Sulan tries to warn Perrin, but he proceeds to enter the Wise Ones' tent after Sulan goes in to announce him. The message from them is the same. Perrin needs to kill Massima, but Perrin reminds them that that is not what Rand sent him to do. When he changes the topic to treatment of the Aes Sedai, the Wise Ones tell him to butt out. But they do say that the Aes Sedai are being treated like any other apprentices and that there's no reason for them to be harmed in any way. Even Sionid, who comes in at one point, tells Perrin to mind his own business. He eventually leaves their tent feeling like he hasn't really achieved anything. Gaul returns with Elias. And when Perrin and Elias find a quiet spot to chat, Elias expresses his surprise that Perrin is A, leading this army, and B, married a Saldaean. When he starts generalizing about Saldaean women, Perrin gets frustrated. But just then, Berelain returns from Bethel, and Perrin excuses himself. In his tent, Berelain introduces Perrin to Queen Aleandra of Gildan, who has accompanied Berelain's party in disguise. She tells Perrin Rand took Ilian and the Shonchan took Ibudar. She also confirms Bulwer's theory about Massima's location. Perrin asks her if she will openly declare for the Dragon Reborn, but she surprises him by swearing fealty to Perrin instead. Perrin accepts reluctantly, and when he senses Fail has business with Aleandre, he leaves. With Perrin gone, Fail, flanked by Berelain and Anura, puts some pressure on Aleandre to see just how loyal she is to Perrin. When Aleandre expresses concern that when Perrin leaves, she'll be left to fend for herself, Fail tells her to come with them. Aleandre resists, but Fail reminds her who she just swore fealty to, and she knows she's trapped. On top of that, Fail tells her to send messages to her loyal supporters that a man in the south has raised the banner of Manetheren, as well as messages to Massima, keeping everyone guessing and off balance. When exiting the tent, Perrin becomes aware of a commotion in the Mayanas camp. A squad of the Winged Guards came upon a farm being burned with families inside and rounded up the Dragonsworn responsible since they know Perrin does not condone this behavior. Perrin orders the Dragonsworn hanged. After the last one stops moving, everyone hears thunder and it rains for a short time. Aram asks if the weather is changing and Perrin responds with everything changes, including himself, apparently. Then we jump to Savannah and her closest Wise Ones torturing a captured Shonchan soldier. The Shido are somewhere in Amadisia and have taken over a farm estate. Savannah is losing her grip on the Wise Ones that have thus far been loyal to her. After the Shonchan soldier dies, she leaves and approaches Galena, who has been hung over hot coals in a leather sack as punishment for slapping a Wise One. They let her down and Savannah tells her she can become Gaishane instead of Datsang if she swears an oath of loyalty on an oath rod given to her by Kadar/Samael. Just then, to Galena's horror, Tharava arrives and says if Galena's going to swear any oath like that, it will be to obey all the Wise Ones, but Savannah and Tharava first among them. Galena does so, and Tharava tests the oath by making Galena admit she planned murder against the Wise Ones. Satisfied the oath rod worked, Tharava orders the shield around Galena to be dropped, and Galena is not capable of reaching the source despite sensing its presence. The oath to obey Tharava and Co. prevents her from doing so after Tharava told her she's not allowed to touch the source without permission. When Savannah tries to take Galena off to take on the White, Tharava informs Savannah that the Wise Ones have decided that since Savannah is the clan chief, she needs a Wise One advisor, and Tharava would be it. When Savannah sees the writing on the wall, she asks Tharava what she would advise then. Tharava says they need to move north to find the rest of the septs. Savannah reluctantly agrees, but proposes to move east, away from the Shonchan in Amadisia. Little does she know, the Shonchan are already in Altara as well. Before they all move on, a smattering of snow falls. Tharava laughs at this so-called snow, belittling the stories brought back from the Aiel War about snow and its dangers. But Galena's hopes melt just like that snow. Which brings us to Chapter 12, called New Alliances. What else is new beyond alliances? Billy?
We've got a new alliance that's being forged here between the Chosen and Nameless. So we got to build on this point of view. Grendel, she's in her not so shabby palace, which is somewhere in the
All right, Damon.
with very little windows. She doesn't like the outside, we learn. She likes the inside. She also doesn't like to write, but and very miss the fact that there's no transcribers available, and that Samael didn't have one when she went and looted him after his death. She found some very nice little things there, nice little golden ungreal ring that was missed, so it gives her a little bit of oomph. But she's busy writing a letter, not in her own hand and not addressed as her writing the letter, but still continuing with the previous set of instructions that she had in to sow the Lord of Chaos, or sow, let the Lord of Chaos reign, and sow some general chaos. She's writing a letter to Lord Iltrude. That is apparently from Lady Tuva. That is a courier for Al Salam, and then also tells old mate that's going to ship the letter for her, who's obviously under compulsion, that just put some human blood on it. You know, you never know what these people know. Just get some real human blood, and he'll definitely do that. All of her pets are there in the illustrious see-through clothes, and she has a bamboo birdcage full of little songbirds singing to her. Life is great for her. She's just thriving, one step closer to being Nablus. Somehow got himself whacked. Things are going good, and then the doorbell rings, and she has a visitor. She's very pleased that someone has the courtesy to remember to ring the doorbell when they're traveling in. And Mogideon and a very pretty little thing arrives there in black and red. And she's like, oh, who's this girl now aligning herself as a Mogideon double? Like, what's this now?
Yeah.
Twinsies business. But she prepares for the worst because, you know, these Chosen don't really trust each other. And she holds on to the power, and she's got the Ungreal with her, and everything's good. And Mogideon then starts addressing her and says, okay, this is Sindane. And she's like, ooh, Sindane? What an unfortunate name. Last chance. How would a mom want to punish her like that? Mogideon enlightens Grendel with the news that Samael is dead. I wrote Sammy Boy, but then I thought that might be just too personal, Jody.
I'll never be able to look at my child again.
Grendel then moves closer, and then she's actually shocked at sensing the power of the Sindane woman. And that is when Sindane pretty much takes over the conversation. And to Grendel's dismay, is also told that, by the way, between me and Mogideon, I'm actually the one that's speaking. Mogideon not too happy with that. There's almost a little bit of a argument between the two over there, but it's short-lived. The announcement is made that Moradin has been named Nameless. And she's like, who the hell is Moradin? And I'm not gonna, she's just off on the cart at that moment. Like, this is not it. This is not how it's going to be. I write her reaction is a what? She says she serves the Great Lord herself, and she'll deal with this. But then the lights get winked out, and it goes all dark. There's a channeling event. When she puts the lights back on, she expects that there's an attack on her, and quickly from the seat that she had positioned to make herself look very nonchalant, realizes, like, look, I got to duck because they know where they're at. And when the lights pop back on, she nets both Sindane and Mogideon with a nice weave of compulsion, which is countering their task that they cannot waver from, and the fact that Moradin holds their minds in a mind trap. So she wants to know what's happening, and there's actually crying from Mogideon, please, like, don't. There's no, you have to align with what needs to happen here. If you don't align, we die. Like, it's as simple as that. Then from behind her comes a voice like grinding rocks, and it's Shaidar Haran. And she is, holy shit, what is this? And he just casually walks in and tells her that I am Shaidar Haran and I'm here. I'm sent to deliver this message to you to make sure that you listen to these two. But casually walks over to her two most beautiful pets that was on display and just casually puts his hand, because they are at this point bowing down. But as he arrives, both Moghedian and Sindane also falls flat down in the same position, shaking. So there's a definite, like, oh, whoa, what's happening here moment for Grendel. But Shadowharan has a little talk to her, picks up both his pets, snaps their necks. There's no movement from whoever the girl was. The guy had a little bit of a kick of the leg and spasm as he departs. And he
He
drops
does
the
it
new normal on her.
simultaneously. He's got one hand on each of their necks,
Yeah,
and,
he
and
basically
snaps
picks
their
them
necks
up
with
from
one
the
hand
ground.
each. Yeah,
Like, and
with a surprisingly loud crack.
surprisingly bone crunching crack.
Yeah.
He drops the new normal on her and issues a bunch of new instructions, which you're not pretty privy to, but we do know that the first one is her needing to go and have a little trip to visit the neighborless Moradin, and they will all listen to him. So she is now quite rightfully shitting herself. Then we have got a change of point of view from one powerful woman to another. Catswain is in a cart, not an apple cart, also not a cart of an imagination, a real one, and they are cruising back to the palace in Karian. With her is Kumara and Daiga, and they talking about, the plots and plans of everything that needs to happen around them. It is raining. It is cold. Like, the weather, so we're going to hear that a lot now, I guess. The weather has changed dramatically.
Everywhere.
When they rock up at the palace, they meet with guards, a lot of umbrellas, a lot of people. You see them through. She basically sends Daigon and Kumara to tend to what they need to tend to, and then is met by Fieldrin, Mirana, and Bera. That is at the entrance hall. Like, they's now under the control of the wise ones. So she's not very stoked about this whole thing that is happening around her, that these Aes Sedai are so meek and so managed by the wise ones. But anyway, she is following the keeper of the keys of the palace that's taking her back to her room. And by the time they get to her room has been readied for her to have a sit down and some nice warm mulled wine, but not warm enough, not mulled wine, spice wine, whatever wine. Or no,
Same thing.
tea with too much mint. That's I recall very
They do
clearly
like
now.
their mint in Kyrian. Was it?
She sits down, opens up her embroidery box, and she positions a mirror just so she can see. She sits with her back to the door and to the hallway. And in starting to do embroidery, there's quite a lot of emphasis on what she's busy making. A male hand with an Aes Sedai symbol disc in it that would appear like he's crushing it. And she's now starting the petals of the rose that's now going to be on the outline border to it, like in her opinion, a controversial piece. But
isn't the hand also holding it together? She doesn't know.
She doesn't know. Now, which was quite interesting for me. Like, is this a little bit of foreshadowing, or is this something that she has? Why would she do that? It was just Audrey dropping some hints. Either way, she did ask the keeper of the keys, whatever her name was, can't remember, to send for Lana. And she spotted in her little trick mirror Lana coming, stopping, twice thinking about walking away. And then she's like, come in, Alana. Doesn't allow her to sit. And Alana just very much goes off on an emotional tangent. Like, I don't know what you want from me anymore. I'm not giving him to his mind. Like, it's just all about Rand and the bond that she has with Rand. And she's like, well, you're akin to a rapist, and I've kept your secret. It's just, but I want to know everything: where he is, when he is, what he's feeling, and the whole lot. And with that, she pretty much wants to excuse her, but she thinks like, man, I'd want to slap this girl that can't control herself. 20 years she's an Aes Sedai and she still can't control anything. And while Lana stands there, she can see that her face visually changes. And she didn't realize, because Sorilea is such a keen, slow, stalking Aiel, that Sorilea had slipped up behind them. And
doesn't
Sorilea
Karuna arrive first?
Oh, Sorilea arrived first.
She sends Alana away.
Oh, yes,
and
sorry,
then Karuna
right.
comes in.
Yes.
And Karuna's like, why is Alana running?
Yes, she sends Alana out. Alana gets scattered running. Karuna comes in, and then Sorilea follows. So Karuna brought in, at the request of Sorilea, a gold tray with a cup and a pitcher, but it doesn't stipulate. Then puts it down on the table, and Sorilea still grabs her by the face with 2 fingers, and you're doing so well, like, you're a good apprentice, and sends Karuna on her way. And then that's when we have the meeting of all meetings of these 2 powerhouses sussing each other out. A lot of auger eyeing and weighing up between the conversations, and specifically about Rand. Like, she doesn't quite, there's a comparison of the prophecies. Like, Rand's prophecy, the dragon prophecy that you have, is never mentioned in our prophecy. But we tried to make him part of our blood, but we can see that, he is drifting, and he needs a little bit of guidance, and then sussing out. And they come to a sort of good agreement, if you want to call it at that, to which Sorilea then decides that she's going to pass on the goodwill, or get the goodwill out of Cadsuane, by giving her something that she doesn't have, doesn't know, cannot understand how they have it. And she says, well, I'm too weak in the power to make it work, but you are strong enough to make it work. So she then lays out the pattern of weaves for her to see, and says, this is known as traveling. And then, obviously, Cadsuane's like, yeehaw, giggity gee, I got it. And she can't wait to test her new door without a bell and slice some people in half. But at the same time, Sorilea then also pours a glass of water, a cup of water. And I can't remember if it was 1 or 2. So that was the strangest thing. Okay, there's water in there. And then says, all right, we're taking a water oath that we will look after Rand, whether it is to give him a hiding or a blessing, to guide him into the right direction, in not verbatim terms. And Cadsuane agrees to it, that the 2 of them, the 2 formidable women, will work together on this. And that pretty much is the end of that chapter.
Yeah. Should we quickly deal with the shadow situation and then get to the real meat and bones of the chapter? Did you have anything you wanted to say about that meeting, Joe?
Just something that he mentioned, and I noticed it as well, the transcriber. She's like, oh man, I wish I had a transcriber. And I just thought about it now, like, why don't you have a kumbaya? What's it? A shambaya? Or whatever.
A person.
Like, you can compel anybody.
Yeah.
Why can't you just compel somebody to write it for you? You just dictate.
Yeah, I think it's just to show like their technology was so great and everything. I think she does say that she's actually does enjoy the act of writing. Like she says,
like
it would have been great to have a transcriber, but yeah.
I think I'm writing like a primitive. Ooh.
Yeah.
There's a lot of emphasis there about how this primitive world, and I think that's why she stays indoors.
From them.
Like, it's so primitive out there. It's like the dark ages for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had flying cars and laser guns, like, yes, this is weird and different and very primitive. The letter she's writing is to Rodel Iteralde, Iltrude, who is one of the great
his name.
captains. One of the 5 great captains.
From where? Where is he from?
Aradoman. And that's
okay, because she's in Aradoman.
And she's in Aradoman. And Al-Salam is the king of Aradoman who's gone missing. So the servants that she has, the pretties and the guys she sends off are like cousins, like his family. She's got them all under compulsion and they're all in her palace. No one knows where the king is. And she's sending letters to Iturralde pretending to be the king. So she's organized. She's like just sowing chaos, right? Like let the Lord of Chaos rule. That's exactly what she's doing. It's just cool to hear. Like
a lot of kings going missing.
Yes, and Stepanios also missing in action.
Queens are gone, kings are gone. Hey, man.
I mean, the world is in upheaval. And it was just really cool for me to read about Iturralde because later when you start, I mean, it's so late in the story when you start reading from his point of view, but I think the first time you read about him properly is like when he's defending a town against Trollocs, and it's all about his guerrilla tactics in the town, like them fighting in the buildings and closing off corridors and stuff, like this one city that's holding out against a massive Shadowspawn attack for so long. It's like, I don't know if it's one of the Sanderson books or not, but it is written in such a cool way that you're like, I just fucking love this guy. Like I love his style. Like he's giving orders in even just like a fun way. So I'm excited to read about him more. At some point during the events of the Fires of Heaven, Elida had Al-Salam kidnapped and taken to an unknown location in the Caroline Grass, where he remained until shortly before the last battle. So Elida had the king of Aradoman kidnapped.
What was the purpose behind that? Well, it's Elida, so...
Who knows why she does anything?
It's Elida, remember.
Oh, yes, sorry.
There's a suffix.
Philly, you keep mentioning the doorbell. This is that chime I spoke about a couple of episodes ago. So how it works is the slash appears, but it doesn't open. The slash appears, and then a doorbell rings, and then Grendel sends back a chime through that to let the other person know it's okay for you to enter. She's like, someone still remembers courtesies from a more courteous age or whatever it was. And then a short young woman with silver hair and bright blue eyes. I think I've said this before as well, I had always pictured Sindane as old because of the silver hair, but it says right here she's young. So I missed one word, and since then it's like, she's an old woman.
What is the reason for her hair change or hair color change? Was it just how
it's a completely new body?
Yeah, okay.
She was killed. Moradin kills her. I don't know if he kills her in the land of the Finns.
Moraine kill her?
No, Moraine and Lanfear are both trapped by the Finns after Moraine tackled her through the gateway. And they're feeding off their ability to power or to use the one power or something like that. Then Moradin rocks up, negotiates a deal to free Sindane, leaves Moraine there, or to free Lanfear, and then he either kills her there, or the Finns kill her, or he gets her. Moradin goes and reclaims her and basically kills her, and then she's reincarnated as Sindane. So her whole body is different. It's not just her hair. Otherwise, Grendel would have recognized Lanfear with silver hair.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. I couldn't quite remember the exact mechanics, but the silver hair, it's now traded silver hair for silver belt. We still have silver items on her.
Oh.
But Grendel here comments like, this girl is foolish for trying to copy Moghedian. Like black and red are just not her colors. But those are Moradin's colors.
Clashes.
They're wearing Moradin's livery. Like he's making them wear his colors. So it's not by choice that she's wearing. She's probably pissed off about it as well. Lanfear was very preoccupied with how she looked.
She's in a Targaryen body. Silver hair and blue eyes.
Grendel mentions here that it seems impossible, but this young silver-haired girl is stronger than her in the power. So that prompted me to go, let me go check the power rankings. So Lanfear, Semirag, and Olivia, the Damane that we read about later, are the 3 most powerful female channelers that we ever read about. So they're all equal with each other. When Lanfear is reincarnated as Sindane, she drops down a level, and she's equal with Messana, Talan, which is that one Windfinder apprentice that was with him in the circle, and another woman by the name of Dingelen or something, and Sharina Meloy, who's an old woman that joins the Rebel Aes Sedai later. She's an old woman. She joins them as a novice because Egwene had opened up the novice books. So here's an old woman as a novice that is as powerful as Messana and Sindane, more powerful than Grendel and Mogedion and Nynaeve, which is
holy shit.
pretty impressive, because the next level down is Grendel, Nynaeve, and then Karagan Makonar. I don't know who that is. And then below them is Mogedion and Somarin. Somarin is a wise one, I think.
If you say so.
I think she is.
That's a question mark voice. I know Morit's question mark voice. I don't have the answer to that.
And then there's 4 levels beneath them. Then it's Egwene and Elaine. And then the level below that is Cadsuane, Bode Cawthon, Nicola Treehill.
Bode.
So Nicola from Arena and Nicola.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She's as strong as Cadsuane, just below Egwene and Elaine. And then 2 levels below that is Avienda. And then the level below that is Adara and Thorava, who are wise ones that we know. Yeah.
Powerful woman there.
Then below Adara and Thorava, a couple quick ones: Elida, Lelaine, Moiraine, Ramanda, Swan, and a couple other Aes Sedai. So they're all right below Adara and Thorava, who are below Avienda and a couple steps below Egwene and Elaine, and even they are a couple steps below Nynaeve, and then the top ranked Forsaken and Olivia.
Badasses.
Yeah.
Olivia.
Yes. It's interesting power dynamic between Sindane and Mogedion, with Mogedion saying outright that Sindane leads, but only for the time being. And as they remind each other of their low standing in Moradin's eyes, they each get a caress of the mind trap. So they're each trying to tell each other, oh, you don't worry, I'll get one over you. And then both of them have these weird convulsions. They just shiver. Yeah, as Moradin's obviously stroking their mind traps.
And does the mind trap allow him to supervise them? Like, does he have the
don't
ability?
think so.
Or because there's a lot of complex things that the mind trap has over them,
but Mogedion wouldn't have taken the chance to shoot balefire at Nynaeve in the harbor. Yeah, remember, she was worried that Moradin might be there when she hears the pigeons, and she thinks, oh, he's here, and she skews her balefire and slices the boat instead of hitting the cabin where Nynaeve was.
So I don't think he can. And after that event, he's like, hey, FYI, I know what you did there, and I know it because this thing is like a walkie-talkie, except only I hear and you feel.
I know what you did last summer.
Something like that.
That's a question about this mind trap thing that I thought of. Right, when Grendel puts compulsion on them, like compulsion on a mind trapped person. Like, what is that connection? Is that why they freak the fuck out so much?
Yes.
Because do they know that there's going to be a clash or something, or because they feel something?
It's like a massive paradox that they find themselves in. That's why they're just short of thrashing on the ground. Like, we cannot do this. Don't make it do us. It will kill us.
The mind traps, unlike compulsion, does not actually compel them to do anything. It's just this threat, that's hanging over them. So with the compulsion, they would be giving Grendel information freely, but by doing it, knowing what the consequence of that would be, because it doesn't erase the knowledge of the mind trap. They would be compelled to actually spill the beans, and that's why they're freaking out. Don't do this. It will mean our deaths, because if you make us do anything counter to what Moradin wants, he'll just crush them. And
that's my question. Is it that knowledge that they have because they know that, or is there a physical effect of combining those two things together that there may be some unforeseen circumstances?
Well, I don't know for sure, but I think it's the knowledge.
Yeah, I think their reaction is the fear that those two women went through with Moradin and Shadar Haran. Remember when Mogedion went to Shire Gul, having to crawl through at the end, that's just that warped reality that's absolutely messed with them. That fear is enough, and the fact that they're mind trapped is enough for them to please don't take a shut up hands. We don't want to do this. And then they also know that in the darkness is old mate Shadar.
Yeah. So Shadar Haran can use he's channeling the true power, right?
I think so.
Because when he comes in there, everybody is cut off. Like, I'm in charge now. But she can't feel. Okay, I don't know. She can't.
Yeah, but even the birds were afraid when he channeled. like the birds, because initially when the
I was
action
afraid.
started, like they fluttered and screamed and squeaked and whatever the hell birds noise they were. But as soon as Shaidar Haran channeled, and the black orb that gave off light, which is the coolest thing that you can possibly think of.
Yeah.
Like a shadowless light coming from a black thing it's like it's insane. Like it's such a great image to have in your head. Like a black hole with this halo around type of thing.
Before he arrives, though, like Sindane seems to take pleasure in telling Grendel that Moradin is nameless, like and then Grendel loses her composure. She's like, "What? That can't be," and she's famously able to keep her composure. It's the first of 2 times that happens in this chapter. We'll get to the other one, but she freaks out, like, "What? No, that can't be." And I was just thinking, like, nameless is like catnip to these Forsaken, right? Like they can't help but react because they are so. And even as this chapter ends, she's thinking to herself, "Okay, so this Moradin is nameless for the time being," like she's hell bent on usurping him, which is crazy. And then when the lights go out, that's Morgidian channeling. Grendel senses Morgidian channeling the lights out, and at that moment, Grendel already jumps out of her chair because now it's dark and she doesn't want to be where they know she was.
Nabbed.
And then she channels an orb of light on the side of the room that throws these weird shadows because there's this orb of light on the side. And then when she throws the compulsion on Sindane and Morgidian, they're still just standing there. Like Grendel is acting. Morgidian turned off the lights and then nothing. I thought it was so weird and out of character for Morgidian to do that because we've been told Morgidian doesn't act unless she knows she's guaranteed victory or something. So
maybe she's acting out of character because she is in a mind trap.
No.
She's being ordered around. She's here with a Sindane woman who's actually above her, and she's just out of sorts at the moment.
They
She's
knew
under the weather.
that Shaidar was going to rock up there. They weren't going to jump around and start a fight because they knew
they
very
had
well
backup.
that he had control of the situation from before they rocked up there.
Maybe they created the darkness so that he could use his Midral power to just step out of the shadow and just be there.
Yeah. Okay, so that was the backup. That was the plan.
Maybe that's it.
That was why Morgidian didn't move.
Ah, okay, that makes.
But I love that Grendel because she's described as like voluptuous. She's not a slim, athletic woman, but she dives out of that chair, does like a little attack roll, throws some magic at them.
Strong compulsion as well.
Girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like stupid strong compulsion. Like almost the type that leaves you brain dead. She thought like, "Ooh, I could have gone too far using this Ungreal."
Yes. But yeah, what did she say? Like that the Ungreal isn't like, it doesn't make her like super powerful, but it does increase her chances considerably. What she also does really well is the way that she handles Shaidar Haran. She asks him, "So how should I address you? Because I don't feel comfortable calling you Great Lord unless I am in the presence of the Great Lord, And Shaidar Haran laughs and he goes, "You are more careful and more wise than many of your compatriots. You can just call me Shaidar Haran." Which I thought was really cool. Like he laughs at her. "Ah, okay, well played, Grendel. You can call me Shaidar Haran."
Yeah, you got some balls on you. More than the
that's
rest
what he
of
says.
these
Yeah, braver
pussies
and
over
wiser.
here. Yeah.
You can call me Shaidar Haran as long as your bravery doesn't like outstrip your wisdom or something like that. Yeah, I just like that she made him laugh. All right, that's all I have to say about the Dark Friends and the Shadow, at least. Do you guys have anything else you want to say about the Kyrian section?
There's a little bit to talk about there, I suppose.
There is a bit. It should come as no surprise that I have plenty to say.
Oh, yes. Why don't you start rattling off and we just interject in between?
So, Catswain's arriving, or she's riding in this Lady Arelyn's carriage, right? And she's looking out the window. She sees an Aiel staring at the sky in wonderment at this weather. It's raining? What the fuck is this? And a fucking cut purse steals his coin pouch and runs off. I just thought that is the bravest cut purse in existence. And I wonder if it's like maybe he's driven to bravery just because of the hatred between the Aiel and the tree killers. Like they are super anti each other. Maybe that's driven him to that. But like, man, robbing an Aiel, that is ballsy.
That's an opportunist.
Yes.
Like, He saw a gap and fucking I'm going for it. Or his mates dared him. He lost a bet.
Like more so explaining for me the the total disbelief and awe that the
Yes.
Aiel person is in
Yes.
seeing rain and cold rain falling out of the sky. It's
Yeah.
like I don't know how we're gonna pair it with something like for us, but it's like jaw drop, stand staring open at something, and your child can disappear next to you because you're just not aware of what's happening because you are
It's
so
exactly
in awe.
that.
So I don't think he was particularly brave. I think he walked and he bumped
I'm
into
just
an
joking.
Aiel, and he's like,
Yes.
"Whoa, what's wrong with this Aiel?" And then he checked 4 more of them standing. He's like, "Oh, they're having a little like blue screen moment." Yeah, probably ran past a couple of times. Hey,
Swing.
it's
But
cold
you're right,
bleeding
Paul, that's-
day.
He retired.
That's
after
that's
that.
exactly what it's about, is to show us just how shocked the Aiel are at this, that even a cutpurse is capable, a Kyrenian cutpurse at that, not even an Aiel cutpurse, is capable of stealing their coin.
And I think that's just still the mechanic that's going through all the way when Avienda is faced with getting on a boat. Like the fear of the water. Like there's a genuine love and a genuine fear of water. Like,
Oh, yeah.
whoa, water falling out of the sky. Like, am I going to, it's just going to fall to the point where I drown? Am I going to be in water now, which they can't even take a bath yet?
No. And we saw it in the previous episode and chapter as well, with Tharava sort of like naive, like, oh, is this snow? This is nothing. No, Tharava, that's not snow.
Not snow.
That's nothing.
Give it some time.
Yes. You will find out soon enough. Cadsuane hints here at what I'm trying to absorb on this reread, and that is that she says that if the seasons had not changed when they did, thanks to the Bowl of the Winds, the dead might have outnumbered the living. Oh yeah, global climate is a big deal. Who would have thought? You know, she says outright, like, if things weren't going to change, people were going to start dying everywhere.
Well, I'm telling you that the Dark One is loose because on the very same day this week in Victoria, we had flood warnings and extreme heat warnings in the same day with power failures, with power plants knocked out. It's madness.
Another day in Australia.
Yeah.
Cadsuane also thinks to herself about the other Aes Sedai, the ones that have sworn oaths to Rand. She goes, if need demanded, she would use them both for mulch, and others too, but she did not intend to lose either because they grew careless. Jesus.
It's a strong word, that, eh? Using someone for mulch.
But again, RJ trick using it like a specific reference to Cadsuane, because we know she does gardening and roses and stuff. Like she won't kill them; she'll tell them to mulch, something specific to her, like we see from Gareth Bryan, all his army references and that sort of stuff as well. Which is cool.
Yeah, but you know, turning something to mulch means chopping them up quite fine.
Yes, very fine. Yes,
like, and she'll probably use the power to do it, but still, I was like, "Whoa, lady, settle down."
The three oaths will prevent her. Cadsuane seems to know that the Aes Sedai are apprentices to the Wise Ones when she addresses Fedwin. So in the previous episode, I made a big song and dance about how Idara tells Perrin for the first time to the readers that the Aes Sedai are actually apprenticed to them as Wise One apprentices. But yeah, she uses those exact words when she talks to Fedwin. So maybe she's ferreted that out somehow.
She's been talking to Sorilea prior to this. So I think there's been a little bit of knowledge drop, perhaps, maybe.
And Amis, like they've met a bunch of times as well. While Mirana seems completely shaken since their ill-fated confrontation with Rand back in Camelin, really. Remember, Mirana led the delegation from Saladar. Bera seems unflappable. I like Bera. Like, Bera isn't like, she was a bit taken aback by Cadsuane being there, but she's taking everything in her stride, which is really cool. I thought Cadsuane's use of Daigon is really good. She's specifically picked Daigon, who she keeps referring to as being sharp of mind. Use that excellent mind of yours. Because Daigon is so weak in the power, she will, in meetings with other Aes Sedai, just sit back and be quiet and serve the tea and listen. And she'll file everything away. And she'll draw conclusions and she'll feed all that information back to Cadsuane.
Yeah, there's a specific reference to the fact that Daigon is able to almost be like this, what do you call it, when someone can just look at a page and memorize it? Like
she has photographic memory.
Photographic memory. Like, sit back and absolutely remember every single bit about it. And that's why she specifically wants her to in certain areas, so she can just feed back. She doesn't have to be there.
Combined with how people sort of ignore her because she's so low in the ranking, they don't talk to her, they're not addressing her, people talk around her, and she can just sit there and file that stuff away. Twice in this section, she refers to her excellent mind.
And she's the white, right?
Yes,
I think she's white. Yeah.
What's
Brown?
her name? Is Brown?
I want to say Bionen again.
No, it's
because I always say Bionen.
Who's the other one? Vili said her name at the beginning. Kamiru, something like that.
It's
Kumira.
Kumira.
Hey, look at that.
She's the brown.
All right.
And Dagon is
those
white.
Those are the two that Cadsuane's got.
That came with her. They showed up with her. Yeah.
Because like the what's the white Dagon can like file everything away, and then the brown what?
And cross-reference and check everything from a knowledge and
cross-reference all that information.
It's like a little.
Yeah,
it's attuned to having two. What would you call them? Researchers with you that can cross-reference the past knowledge and remember everything current. So she held on to, much like little trinkets in her hair. She's got low-level Aes Sedai with unique talents that she keeps in her fold.
Yeah. Very smart. Aiel seemed to be giving Cadsuane some level of respect for saving Rand's life, but it was Samitsu that did the healing out at the tent and everything. Maybe because she was sort of in charge at the time. She does say here that tails get twisted, but it gets her more respect from the Aiel, so she'll just take it. She accepts that it's not true.
Not going to correct them.
Great.
Well, she was involved in like the rescue of Rand,
exactly,
like carrying him out of the fog.
Yes.
And
she was in charge.
She was in charge. She was leading that.
And the Aiel probably placed a lot of stock in that. Like, if whatever clan chief or wise one was in charge of anything that was happening, they would get the honor or they would get the recognition.
But she also carries herself like a wise one. Like, she doesn't carry herself much like an Aes Sedai. And the very interesting thing here is a lot of interactions with the Aes Sedai that are, and now specifically Alana being a foolish and referencing to her the town of origin, is like she's just like a woman busy dying, ready of old age, dying, still emotional from that area. Like, where we from, we're not like this, and she just wants to slap Alana. Which was really good scene though, like nice little.
She is, I think Cadsuane is from Farmadding originally, isn't she? Because she thinks here of Rand. If only he had been raised in Farmadding. But then that might have led to its own catastrophe. So I wondered, like, okay, why did she make that comment? And so I went and I read about Farmadding, and this is what the fandom wiki says. Farmadding is relatively unusual among the societies of the Westlands in that it is an openly matriarchal society. Women run the city's businesses and occupy most government positions. Even when a man is given authority, he is overseen by a woman with more authority, and is only ever given authority over other men. From infancy, men are taught to obey their mothers or older female relatives, and once married are expected to obey their wives. So of course she wishes that Rand was raised in Farmadding, so she could just tell him what to do and he'd do it.
Exactly. Isn't Farmadding the place that has the
yes.
Which is the city with the thing that stops you from
the
channeling? The
Terangrill that prevents you from channeling, yeah.
Yeah.
Where they also like wire up your sword. Like you come in the gate and they tie the wire around it. So Cadsuane has positioned herself in this room with her back to the door, right? And she's got a little sewing box with its mirror open that she's looking through. So that's how she can see Alana behind her sort of coming to the room. When Sorilea comes in the room, Cadsuane stands up and turns around to face her. Like she knows Sorilea commands some level of respect. And then Sorilea goes and sits down, looks uncomfortable in the chair or anything, but then she motions for Cadsuane to sit. Okay, now you sit down. You know, and Cadsuane recognizes, yes, this is a woman that expects to be obeyed when she gives a command, which is fucking awesome.
Also, she seems to think that her age and Sorilea's age is kind of on par. Like, yes. Obviously, the aging, the agelessness is not there with Sorilea. She looks old. But Cadsuane recognizes, okay, she's seen as many moons as me.
Mm-hmm. I've read on the fandom wiki, Sorilea is, no one knows exactly, but she's over 200 years old, where Cadsuane, I think, is close to 300. But she makes the comment here that, she thinks they're of an age.
I think once you pass 200 years old, it doesn't really
doesn't matter
man. Who's
anymore.
counting?
No. So it's this conversation where Sorilea talks about the Aes Sedai channeling with their sort of hand waving and the fact that the wise ones don't. So this is why I was saying it's a possible reason why the Sea Folk and Aiel fireballs hit the Raken before the Aes Sedai, because the Sea Folk also don't use their hands to channel. I think they're trying to keep it a secret, right? Like the Windfinders can channel, so they're not standing on the deck being all like wild with their arms when they're channeling or anything, which is a cool minor detail. When Sorilea talks about most men accepting something that is offered to them if it seems attractive and pleasant, and once we thought of Rand al'Thor so, is she referring to basically putting Avienda there for him to marry?
Yes.
They were sort of like, here's a beautiful young woman, sleep in his room.
Ties in with her mentioning that we tried to make him part of the blood.
Exactly.
That was definitely her modus operandi. We'll
Yeah.
stick her in there. Avienda hated it, but still.
Yes.
we-
Hated it, but loved
They
it.
didn't count on Rand's backwater village
Yes, exactly.
prudishness with women.
They made an assumption about how all men are, and then Rand proved them wrong. And she says that here. Now she knows that if she wants Rand to do anything, she has to ask him to do the opposite. If she wants Rand to talk to her, she has to
Stubbornness.
pretend like she wants nothing to do with him.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I love the fact that the Aiel don't give a shit about the prophecies of the Dragon Reborn and the last battle. It's just not in their prophecies, that they just don't care.
They just disregard it. It's like, yes, whatever.
Totally.
Yeah, that's sad as well, because they don't their people don't reach there. Basically, after that, they're their civilization is dead.
Mm-hmm.
So their prophecies don't really need to go further than that.
No, because, yeah. It does talk about how Rand is going to, destroy them.
A remnant of a remnant.
Yes.
So, you guys don't need to really worry about the last battle. Shame. Although some of them will be there. Well, hundreds of thousands.
Mm-hmm. When Sorilea shows Cadsuane the weave for traveling, Cadsuane's jaw actually drops. So here's the second instance of someone that is usually calm and collected and composed, shows a physical reaction, which is a massive response from Cadsuane. Also someone that is not just always very calm and composed, but has a tremendous amount of experience in being calm and composed in situations where, other people would not be calm and composed. Sorilea gives a small smile when Cadsuane says that she doesn't have anything to offer in return, and Cadsuane knows she owes Sorilea now. And
so does Sorilea.
she sure does. I just fucking love her. Hey, she is so good, because she everything she's doing here is so in the spirit of collaboration, right? But is still extremely manipulative. She's basically bullied Cadsuane into working with her, and now oh, we're drinking water. Yes, this is a water oath. We are now that is the strongest oath we can make. We are bound together. So lots of cool new alliances in these chapters, but that one for me.
For me, the thing that also stands out is in the words that is said with the oath, that she can't utter it because she's bound to the three oaths herself. So there's no lying in and around it. And Sorilea was kind of happy with what she said, in the sense that, okay, cool, this is going to stick. But it's two matriarchal powerhouses that's joining together, which is fantastic. I love this bit.
It's pretty great, and I hate to say it, but I'm kind of warming to Cadsuane a bit.
Me too.
The scoreboard is kind of balanced.
Maybe it's because we're older and wiser now, and we're not young
easy.
and full of vinegar.
I expect young people to listen to me when I talk.
Yeah, well, I do.
Yeah, we are three Cadsuanes over here.
They don't, but we expect.
Exactly, just like Cadsuane.
I like what Sorilea said, Chase. It's you Aes Sedai love making oaths and then immediately try to get out of it constantly. So I'm going to make this water oath with you now, but
forget your oath rod. This is more binding. Yeah, we're going to drink this water together.
But it is, despite Sorelea's intention to get her on board with them, is very much about Rand. She cannot have Cadsuane against Rand because Cadsuane is too powerful.
That's the only thing.
That is
yes.
Yeah, she has to. This is all about saving Rand, and that's the maternal side from from Sorilea looking at Rand as one of their own. That's like, we got to look after him.
But also an important figure in their society, right? Like, he is their chief of chiefs. So yes, there is a maternal element which you can't help but infer from everything that Sorilea does, because she is kind of described as this motherly or grandmotherly, well-respected woman, but she's the one that she's got so much respect that she can speak gently and softly to people without like commanding respect. She already has it.
She has it. It's like in the subtle movement as well, like sending in Karuna and then stopping her with 2 fingers against the cheek. And then Cadsuane's perspective is like she could see the pride in Karuna to the words that Cadsuane, that Sorilea had given her. She's like, okay, wow, this is a bloody, like, people seek her approval. There's a big lesson in that. And not because she has the power, strength in the power. It's not about the capital P power. It's she's got strength and power.
Yeah. And Cadsuane says here, it's good to be reminded that these Aiel wise ones are not savages. They're not uncultured savages or something along those lines.
Finally somebody says it.
Yes. And don't they say, like, the oath, isn't it like to make Rand laugh? You know, like they boil it down to like
laugh and cry.
Specifically that thing.
Laughter and tears.
Yes.
Yeah. Feel some emotions, boy.
Yeah.
One more thing. 2 more things, actually.
Great.
I was going to say something else. Yeah. One about like Karuna's reaction, because Cadsuane sees her pride and then her own shock at being proud of this. Like, wait, I shouldn't be doing this. And also back to that thing about the embroidery of the hand holding the broken seal or crushing, holding it together or crushing it. She talks about that. Like, does she know? Because she's got a plan. That's why she's there. Does she know that the seals need to be broken? Is this a theory she understands as well? Because Herod Fell knows it, and he's not a channeler of any standing. She's smart. She's been around.
Maybe,
does she also know this?
Maybe, if not physically and literally, maybe symbolically, right? Like, Rand has to do something new to trap the Dark One. I don't know.
Yeah, because you can't just... I mean, if you look at it now, obviously, in hindsight of 20 years of reading these books, like, if something breaks, it's better to replace it. Like, if all the things are broken, you take them away and you put new ones. You don't just patch the old ones. So it makes sense that, okay, we break all those seals and we put new ones in place.
Well, let's see if we ever read about Cadsuane sort of thinking about or commenting on Rand's strategy. I think it's only revealed at the very end, right? I think when he sends Logain to do it, and I think Egwene tries to stop him. I'm wading into callbacks here. I'm not going to do them, but
you do love callbacks.
I do, and creating them for myself. But they're only broken right at the end, and I don't think Rand figures it out. He figures it out with Min's help or something like that. I don't know. I don't know that Cadsuane necessarily is around when that decision is made, but time will tell. Put a pin in that one.
We will. A very long-standing pin. It'll be rusted by the time we get there.
Okay, so before it rusts, let's get on to chapter 13, called Floating Like Snow. Oh, Joe, tell us what you know about the snow, bro. Go.
Yes. Your delivery was good. And it's not floating like snow, it's like floating snow.
Oh.
But anyway.
Is it?
Yes.
Oh.
Callback. Anyway.
Very well.
Talking of Rand, we're with Rand. Jesus, when was the last time we saw Rand? I don't even remember. But then that doesn't mean anything. We're with Rand. And the nervous nobles of Ilion, Tyr and Kyrian. We're just outside Ilion. So he's in Ilion. He went back there afterwards, all right? And the weather down there is rainy and windy, cold, if not as cold as in the north, as we'll see later on. But I think some time has passed now. I don't know how much time. We'll never know. But it's like people are talking about how it started, like in these chapters, like first a little bit of this rain and then the wind picked up. But now it's like full on winter.
Yeah.
And down in the south, winter is not snow. It's just rainy and windy. It's like Cape Town.
Hardcore storms.
Yeah, crazy storms. So they've all gathered. to wipe out what is left of Samael's army, which has been hiding in the countryside of Ilion. There's around, in this group that they were trying to weed out, there's around 2,000 to 3,000 that are left. A lot of them, most of them had fled, of that army that was gathered had fled when they learned that Lord Brend was actually Samael and is now dead, and that their king is dead and there's a new king in town. A lot of people just went, oh, well, fuck this, and they left. But some guys are holding fast. Rand is holding Sidene. So he's trying to chat with Luz, who is uncharacteristically silent. He's gone. Yeah, for now. So he's, with his power enhanced ears and eyes and feelings and everything else, he's looking in there, he's scouting the countryside. And then he announces, like, look, I'm going to go talk to this army myself, and just goes off, leaving the nobles behind him. Wyramon is there. Speak of the devil, last week we chatted about him. So he's there. He joins Rand with a smattering of other nobles. We'll talk about them as we go along. But there's a whole bunch of nobles with their armies and their soldiers and whatnot. But a lot of them are like looking at each other, like, should I go? Like, of the 9 in Ilion, only one guy decides to go with, and then he notices no one else is going, so he just stops. So everyone's like super nervous, don't know where they stand. Wyramon doesn't give a shit because he's a moron. He just goes anyway. It's like, wait, is there a charge happening? I'm coming with. Woohoo! Off he goes. Gregorin is also among them, and he urges Rand to just like send someone else. Like, he catches up. He's like, look, dude, these guys are totally going to try and kill you, Like, it just takes one arrow to kill the Dragon Reborn.
Yep.
We hear that a lot. Like, you should really send somebody. But of course, Rand's not going to listen to that. Wyramon suggests letting the Ilioners root out this army out. It's like, he doesn't care much for them, and they can just go and root them out. It doesn't matter who dies. Rand shouldn't waste his time with them.
Yeah.
And, technically, he's right. Rand shouldn't. This is not Rand's work, but Rand is trying to stay on top of things. He didn't trust any of these douchebags. He
quite right.
Micromanage this himself.
Yes.
So also
Yes.
right. But they squabble amongst themselves, as nobles tend to do anyway. Like, each noble is trying to convince Rand to do a different strategy, and finding a little, way to insult each other while doing that as well, if the opportunity arises, which it does multiple times. There's lots of little snarky comments back and forth, and Rand eventually just snaps at them. It's like, did anybody ask for your fucking opinions? Shut up. So he tells Gregorin and Marcolin, who is the first captain of the Ilion companions, who used to be under Rand's dad. If we go back in time, when Tam was a companion, he was this guy's commander, but he doesn't know at this point. We're not going to spill the beans. So Rand calls Gregorin and Marcolin to join him, and then calls for Deshiva and Hopwill. Like, the rest of you arguing twits could stay behind. You, Deshiva and Hopwill, you come with me. Rand zones out a bit after calling them because he's listening for Luz again. He's feeling something as well with Alana's shock and outrage through the bond. And he's like, what's going on there? And this is obviously during the conversation with Cadsuane? Is this what he's feeling?
What I thought it was that I'm pretty sure during that conversation, something comes up about how the wise ones have not been able to punish Alana properly because they know of the bond to Rand. But
yes.
And then it gets cleared up for her, either by Cadsuane or someone else, that because of the distance, it doesn't work that way. It's not like he feels all that pain. He's just aware of the fact that she's in pain. And they go, oh, okay. So Alana's going to get a bit of different treatment now. And now this new feeling Rand is feeling is Alana actually being punished by the wise ones. I think that's how I read it.
Could be, yeah, because you can see Sorilea, I remember, she goes like, that bitch has been lying to us the whole time. We've been taking it easy on her not to hurt the Kara Khan.
Exactly.
Oh, she's going to get it now. Oh, she's in shit.
That's what I thought.
So anyway, that's a good thought. I think it now too.
Cool. Inception.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, Rand's zoning out because he's looking for Rand. He's feeling Alana's these feelings coming through, and like he's in his own little world until he notices Gregorin and Marcolin kind of staring at him, and he snaps out of it and he just whispers to them, "Not yet." And the shock on their faces and the realization is like, "I'm not going mad yet." They like totally thought he was going mad, and he's like, "Not yet."
It's the relief on their faces that tells Rand that is exactly what they were thinking. It's so good.
He knows what everyone's thinking.
Not yet.
You know, it's common sense, not yet. So he's still a bit cheeky. He's got a bit of like mirth left in him, but it's his now, like throughout this whole chapter, just talking about how he's got to be steel, like he's leaving all the emotions behind.
So
It's
bleak.
like, these guys don't understand anything but strength, so that's all I'm going to project.
Yeah.
There's no niceties left, but there is still some, especially with the Asherman. We'll see later. So he's got these people, off they go to go meet these leftover rebellious sorts. Grigoran and Marcolin whispering amongst themselves behind him, and Deshiva muttering to himself in fluent old tongue. Alert.
Exactly.
Yes, Rand's like, he can speak it and read it and write it like a scholar. How, Rand?
And then,
how do you think he
And then he
does this?
follows that thought with, despite being a farmer, he didn't like being outside. Yeah, maybe he's not a farmer.
So many
Maybe he's not a farmer that speaks the old tongue fluently. Come on.
And writes it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, there's Deshiva. He's hanging out. Rand calls old Hopwill over and compliments him on a job well done. So here he is still trying to, because it's Eben, like
Eben Hopwill,
Hopwill, right?
Yeah.
Like Eben Etzebeth.
Yes.
All right, sweet. My new favorite Asherman. On a job well done, because he's only 16. He's a young kid, but this guy has seen some shit. So he is not a child in any mental capacity anymore. He is a grown, damaged man. But anyway, so the story is that he had gone via Gateway to Amador and returned with news that the Sean-Chan were back. But anyway, he had to fight as well. And because when he went in there, he opened up a gateway and ran straight into a Sean-Chan patrol. And he had to do some fighting and some killing. He killed everyone, including the Daman. So yeah, he's traumatized by the shit, and Rand knows it. So he's trying to be soft and gentle with him, you know, which is still cool. So he's not 100% steel yet.
Yeah.
But Rand knows better. Like, this guy's like, Evan's like, oh, it was nothing, you know, and he's like, yeah, whatever, bro. Because Rand is like, you had to kill women, but these Damane women. So to him, it's a big deal, and he knows it's a big deal to this kid as well.
Yeah.
But you know, he's trying to tell him you did good, you had no choice, you know, trying to appease him a little bit. Suddenly, a man appears ahead of them. From the tree line, one of these rebel scum. So quickly Rand spurs Tai Daishar to meet him. I love this horse's name. That's awesome. He claims to speak for the leader of the group, and he's a bit of a cheeky cunt as well. He's not at all taken aback by Rand Thor Dragon Reborn, you know. So by now Grigoran and the rest of them have caught up. And tells this man, like, hey, what's your cheeky mouth? You know, you speak to the Dragon Reborn, Lord of the Morning, King of Ilion. Kneel, peasant, basically. But this peasant does not kneel. And he isn't much impressed by this Dragon Reborn fellow. He's like, Lord of the Morning? Yeah, I didn't vote for you. So there's a rustling behind the rebel peasant, which Rand's sight-in enhanced ears hear easily. So he knows there's more people back there. He also feels Hopwill, Eben, embrace the source and stare like in the same direction. But this is a thing that Evan's doing a lot lately, staring off into the distance. Like, all of these Asherman in this chapter are all just losing it, eh? It's starting to show. So Grigoran is about to lose his shit with the peasant. But before he can speak, this cheeky peasant, that is, Rand, using flows of air to amplify his voice, tells him, you know, in other words, to chill the fuck out. And then addresses the soldiers in the very obvious ambush ahead of them. Tells them, like, listen, he knows that they were just following orders. So if they want, they can go home and join their families again. Or if they want us to keep fighting, they can join him. Because I'm the new king. But those are your only two options. No banditry here. I'll have none of this crap where you guys are running around.
You have to drop your weapons.
You go. You leave your shit here. You go home to your families. Yeah. Cool. Otherwise, you pick up your weapons and you stay with me. That's it. So there are some calls from the tree line. And it was like, what about this? You know, and what about that? So one of the things is like, what about this Aiel and Dragon Sworn bandits cruising around killing people? So the guys are like, now the government wants to take our guns. And Rand tries to explain that, listen, those are Shido dogs, those Aiel, you know. Bashir and the companions are hunting them down. I'm on it. I'm sorting it out. All right. Those are not my Aiel. But old peasant boy is not convinced, like, whatever, you know, I don't believe anything you're saying. Rand tells him, like, listen, whatever then. You have until midday to decide. And he wheels his horse around and he heads back, all right? He releases the power, but it's instantly replaced by rage. Rage. This news of Dragonsworn and the fucking Sean Chan appearing again and the Shido dogs that are all scattered all over the place. Like, what is going on? It's all pissing him off. He's got more important shit to do, and he's got to worry about all of this shit and all this time wasting. This man has a plan, you know. The Dark Lord is coming, the end of the world. I got things to do. I don't have to waste my time with these people hiding in the bushes. Let's go, man. So Rand tells the nobles that when he gets back to the waiting nobles and the armies there by Ilian, he tells them, like, listen, he gave those soldiers over there until midday to make a decision. You guys keep an eye on them. I'm going to my tent now. And Emo Rand storms off. End of chapter.
Emo Rand. This is the chapter that I had in mind when I was talking last time about just how bleak everything is. The rain, the mud that everyone is, like the soldiers, like the guy that they are talking to, he's like, he looks like completely like covered in mud and stuff. Jody, the way you phrased this and the fact you said, I didn't vote for you, now it makes me picture the scene like it does in Monty Python and the Holy Grail and Dennis.
Exactly.
That is now what I'm picturing.
Just collecting mud. Oh, some lovely mud down here.
Oh, some lovely filth down here.
Guys, easy now, rein it in. Let's stay focused.
That scene there is...
That could be my favorite scene.
Is very reminiscent
Is
of
the best.
the opening scene for Gladiator. In the snow, mud, they walking through the camp, battles have been fought, and then facing the horde of Germanians in the tree line, except they don't ride out to them, just throw a head back. Like, no ways, we'll fight you. But it's that same feeling, like pretty bleak, pretty cold, pretty muddy, pretty yucky.
Everyone's cold and dirty and tired, and
even the horse, like Rand's horse, is standing dead still, just waiting, like statuesque. And Rand thinks to himself, it's fitting that his horse would seem as cold as its rider. You know, like it's just like everything is just shit.
And getting shitter.
Rand mentions like feeling someone that's about to touch his back, looking over his shoulder. Is that Moradin?
No, I read this as because this is mentioned a couple of times and in conjunction with the swirling colors. I think that's the beginning of the connection with Perrin and Matt, that they can see each other, and I think that's it. Because it's like he mentions the swirling colors in conjunction with that, like I think twice during these chapters.
Yeah, the swirling colors I also thought was the Matt and Perrin thing. In the chapters that come, Rand in his own dreams sometimes sees himself as what he's come to learn like Lews Therin looked like. And then there's also another face that he doesn't recognize. Like there's this because now they've crossed the streams with Balefire, right? These these little Moradin little shadows start showing up everywhere.
Right, I'd forgotten about that. Yes, I'm changing my mind. Reevaluating everything I know.
And yeah, my other point was I also assumed that the swirling colors were after... Is it when he thinks about Matt or Perrin that the colors come about?
Or, yeah, I don't know.
In an early episode, many books ago, I mentioned that was such a weird, pointless mechanic, and one of our listeners corrected me and said, no, it actually is used to great effect later in the series, and maybe even in the Sanderson books, you know. He actually finds out where they are based on, because over time, they coalesce into clearer and clearer pictures. Yeah. Deshiva, muttering in the old tongue and stuff. It is just amazing to me how differently I'm looking at his character, knowing that it's Agenor, and not like Rand assumes in these chapters. Deshiva, like, I don't know if it's in these ones or if it's later that that's something I read ahead, but Rand thinks to himself, oh man, these Ashaman, it's only a matter of time until they go crazy. Deshiva is probably there already because he's always muttering and like looking aloof and that sort of thing. So that's how, because Rand was thinking that's how I always saw Deshiva as well in my own sort of imagining of him. But the fact that it's Agenor makes it completely, he's nowhere near crazy. He is just like so put out by having to deal with these fucking peasants and these primitives and like, oh, what are we doing out here in the rain? This is fucking bullshit. And he's mumbling in his old tongue. Yeah, good shit.
It's like Jody said earlier, watching The Prestige for a second time. You're like, I see all the bits now. We're having our Prestige moment here. We're so annoyed with the Shiva at the moment. Like, I mean, Rand, just wake the fuck up and kill him already. He's standing right next to you all the time.
Yeah. Some more of the bleakness that I was referring to last time and on this episode is Rand mentions a couple things here. He says, or it says, Rand was within a hair of scouring the entire city of Ilion when he found out that the merchants were keeping information about the Seanchan from him. Like, a hair from scouring the city. So these extreme reactions all the time, just really showing us like Rand's mental state, obviously. So he's almost constantly filled with rage, as we read here. So when he urges the horse forward, seething with the power, then spider webs of rage across the void, and then later solid sheets of fury that wrapped tight around the void. And he's constantly snapping at people. And then to the other point you raised, Joe, no sooner had Sidene gone, though, than rage bubbled in its place, white hot and searing, nearly as hot as the power had been. Like, not just Rand was angry, seething rage and fury all the time. Like, whoa, okay. Rand is...
He's like the Hulk. This is his Bruce Banner moment.
Oh, God, he is not in a good space, eh? And when he thinks about the Shido, like doing all these attacks, he thinks to himself, was Samael reaching out from beyond the grave? Well, actually, yes, Rand, exactly that. It was Samael that scattered the Shido around these lands. So you are actually spot on.
The idiot boxes.
Yeah.
Some of the captured Shido had spoken of an Aes Sedai, but that was Grandal, obviously, right? So Grandal was there with Kadar, and, they just assumed this woman that can channel is Aes Sedai. But now, because of that, Rand wonders if the White Tower has had a hand in the presence of the Shido, right? So it's like Kadar or Samael and Grandal's plans are all working like exceedingly well. The Shido are causing chaos. Now Rand is suspecting the Tower. Like, is the Tower involved in this somehow? So the chaos that they've sown is absolutely bearing fruit. My last note on this chapter is just everything is so, all caps, bleak. Just everything is shit.
Indeed. All right. Filster?
I've got that chapter there was not great. Like, I mean, there's a few things.
It's not fun
just
reading.
Angry at the fact that Rand cannot see the Shiva for what he is next to him. I had not realized this, obviously, from reading 20 billion years ago. But no one can speak the old tongue fluently except for Matt. And he had to die and get memories for it. So, I mean, Rand, seriously, just read some of that books. Get some knowledge up you.
Get some knowledge up you.
He's blinded by rage.
True. Here we go.
It's especially egregious, though, that Rand gave Taim the message in the beginning. Tell me if someone progresses too quickly. Like, if one of the Forsaken could come and hide as an Ashaman. Well, yes, and is right next to you basically all the time. And you think he's crazy, but no, just evil and perturbed.
Annoyed at the general condition of life.
Yes. His orders from Shaidan Haran. So, then, let's move along to chapter 14 called Message from the Mihail. Vil, what was this message from your mate?
This chapter is all about Rand getting a letter from Michael. Now,
Michael. I love his name.
pretty much carrying on exactly where we are there on the outskirts of Ilion. Rand is there in the camp, surrounded by the Iliania companions, the Terran defenders.
The defenders of the stone.
Defenders, yes. And the Carinian, there's no word for them. They're just Carinian.
Yeah. Shorties.
Tree killers.
So old mate Dharma, Flynn is with him. And they are now marching back towards, in his rage stage, coming back to the camp, where it's announced to him that Torval has just arrived. Another fantastic person. Great man. He is waiting for him under guard, as Rand had instructed them to do. Like, no one from the Black Tower can just freely move around. Like, You got to keep them almost under lock and key. But he's in the council tent, and Rand's like, I didn't want him in the council tent, but anyway, he's there now. So Rand issues the instruction to Flint to like, okay, cool, get us some snacks. This might be a long one. And then he says, oh, FYI, he's not too stoked about you pinning us. And he's like, what? Well, and then he tells her, look, you definitely deserved getting pinned, but I'll deal with that type of thing, just to set a little bit of good faith back into Dharma Flynn, which is such a good man. I like him so much. Anyway,
love him.
The Shiva and Hopwill is told, okay, cool, follow, and then we get described on the movement through the camps and the segregation between the men from these different camps or different nationalities. They will hang out together, but when it comes to living, cooking, feeding, and all of that, they pretty much on their own. The tent that they do their counseling in is encircled by all of the other camp, but then there's a complete vacant like space between it, so no one can spy on it or go into it. Like you've got to go literally through all of the men to get to it, which I thought was okay. That's a pretty clever idea of them. Then I don't know if that was Bashir or whose idea that was.
I think Rand has a couple of ideas working there. He also specifically is keeping a bunch of people around him that don't trust each other, so that if any hint of conspiracy against Rand comes out, they dob each other in. So they won't collaborate because they hate each other.
Great plan. But then again, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So could dramatically fall apart. Either which way, Torval then meets him and gets questioned why he's there. Well, he's got a letter from the Michael sent him a letter. He then also drops a little bit of news in the sense of, okay, there's an army on the march and they're marching on the Black Tower. And he's like, no, they're not. They're not marching on the Black Tower. So can you guys just please stop with the Aes Sedai? You're not going to fight them unless they physically attack you where you stand. You leave them, because old mate Michael does not even, he can't sense like if they in the pub together at the same time having a meal, he thinks it's an attack on him.
I just think he's going to be so stoked when Elida's Aes Sedai arrive at the Black Tower. Finally, yeah!
Open fire!
Told you! Vindication.
No, but yeah, he's absolutely at the one stage. Rand slams his hand on the table, like, do I have to go there to make myself clear again? And there's a big difference between how these people have been elevated by Time as the accepted or the Asherman. They're so elevated that he thinks he can walk in and almost treat Rand as an equal, which is also now ramping Rand's rage that's already white hot and searing through the roof.
When Rand slams his hand down on the table, it says his arm trembled with his desire, because it comes down on the dragon spear. His arm trembled with a desire to take it up and stab Torval through the heart. And then he says to Torval, the Asherman are a weapon to be aimed where I say, not to flutter around like hens every time Taim gets frightened over a handful of Aes Sedai having dinner at the same inn. If I must, I can come back and make myself clearer. And then when the guy goes, no, it's fine, he goes, that's good then, because I'll kill any one of you that goes near those women in Mirundi. You cut where I direct. And that shuts him up.
You're a cannon. You point and you shoot. That's it. You know more.
I point and you shoot.
I point you shoot the bullet.
Yes.
But Rand wants a little bit of detail about how it's going with his army of madmen. They have grown quite substantially. They have now got 97 dedicated, 29 Asherman. That is not counting the people that Rand had raised, so the statistics is a little bit askew. And there's 322 soldiers. They get as much as 5 a day joining them, likened to picking blackberry bushes and whatnot. There's a lot of blackberry bush talk there for a little bit. And
one
then-
specific blackberry bush.
I want to talk about that. Shall we pause? Since we've paused anyway.
Yes.
Yes.
Is he talking about the two rivers? Is
He
what
is.
I inferred.
Yes.
All right.
So, yeah, Time went there to
code.
recruit. Rand sent him there and said, go look there. I'm Taverin. People that can channel seem to be cropping up there. Rand's aware of all the girls from the
That
two
come
rivers
from
that he
them.
met in Camelin. So he said, go recruit there. And Taim responded with a surprising number of blackberries.
Berries on such a...
Yes, something along those lines. But yes, that's the two rivers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, he's also checking on the mental state of these recruited people and the ones in training and how it's going with them. But there's been 19 deserters. 3 of them have been caught and beheaded, their heads hanging like fruit on a not fruit tree, which is
On the traitor's tree.
the traitor's tree, down by the hanging tree. Yeah, that's not good. And he says, like, when I get there, I want all of the heads there. Like, none of you can get away with leaving this. This is a one-way ticket into either madness or death or both. Then
At this point, Willie, sorry, I'm interjecting here, but when he told him that their heads are hanging on the traitor's tree, I thought Rand was going to get angry. Was my first impression. Like,
Same.
Like, that's gross, man. And he's like, good. And I'm like, wait, whoa.
Yeah.
When I get there next, I want to see all 19 on that tree. I'm like, holy shit. And then he explains afterwards, like, if they're going to run now, they're going to run later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like, you can't trust them in a battle or something. And I was like, okay, this makes sense. But yeah, another thing of Rand, because we know, we're familiar with Two Rivers Rand. And now, again,
This is
it's
not the
changed.
Rand
Like,
we know.
Fucking
But
chop
this
their
Rand
heads
has
off, hang 'em on a
also
tree. Let's go.
missed the voice in the back of his head that rages every time there's an Ashaman close to him. And just the idea that some of them are being killed, like Rand has got no problem with that, it seems.
Yeah.
13 have been burnt out in exercises and 28 dead on the spot. So accidents do happen in the push to exceed. And then the rest of them that's gone crazy, they just get murdered in their sleep. It's
Straight up poisoned.
straight up.
Yeah.
Yeah, have some wine. They call it the sleepy wine, the last cocktail,
The Kool-Aid.
the last Kool-Aid. All right, now where do we get to the letter? Fedwin Morr arrives. He has also been
Yes.
gate jumping and brings news of the Shanshan is definitely attacking, and that there's a strangeness, and Rand is really pressing him on the strangeness. Now, he says the Aes Sedai is a new weapon, not knowing that it was actually the event of untying the weave that went haywire and went all atomic. He links that to the strangeness, and that got me thinking, like, okay, was that the event that caught? But that wouldn't make sense because the bowl is the event.
What happened was they overpowered the bowl, and that caused weirdness in the one power. Then when Elaine tried to first create the gateway, it seemed like the weave was alive and stuff, and then it suddenly snapped. Remember, it snapped into place, and it actually gave her a jolt when it did. And then when she was trying to unpick it, it was virtually impossible to do it, and that caused the explosion. Then the Shanshan went back to report to their people that the Aes Sedai have a new weapon because they just assumed it was a weapon. So Morr probably gleaned this information from interrogating Shanshan soldiers,
Which he had
to
done.
find out that this is an Aes Sedai weapon because this is what they are reporting. This is what they've...
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't
they've spoken
interrogating them as much as he was like in talking
murdering them.
He was having
and
he was having pints with them.
pints.
No, he was there for a long time. He said,
Yeah, no.
he says a man's tongue is loose after a few ales.
There we go.
Yeah,
in the
Hopwill
inns. So he
was the one that murdered and then
Yeah.
burned
Hopwill was only there for
all
like
of
an hour
their
or so.
bodies, all
hell
of their
broke loose.
horses, everything to white ash. That is the thing of snow.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's what it was, yeah.
So basically confirming that this news that Rand got so angry about not getting from the merchants is true. The Shanshan's there, so he's like, fuck, so much that's happening around him. He's got a lot to balance on his plate. Now, Torval, the fool, blindly disagrees that it's a stupid act of them when he says what the Shanshan's move is. Like, they're going to go through the mountains. And then after I'm listening to it, and after Torval has his little 10 cents opinion, right? Like, no, that's exactly what I would do. Get all the wagons so that you can feed an army. You can move an army, because you can't live off the land, and look at what the weather's doing right now. So food is going to be scarce. Plus, the deeper sea that's just off this stretch of land that they got to cross is now going to be faced by tremendous storms. So they rightly saying, cool, we'll take the route, but also securing the roadway through there, so there's no brigands that can take over, because we do know that they've got good governance. This Seanchan, they let the people move freely and safely. They create a safe environment, as long as you behold the Empress. Long may she live. Now,
Forever, not just long, forever.
May she live forever.
May she live forever. So that gets all vindicated. Now, I haven't talked about the letter yet. There's not much in it.
It's where the blackberry bush comment is from.
Yeah,
isn't
that
it?
was the blackberry bush. Yeah, just his letter is really nonsense. Just a bit of comment about what he's been harvesting, blackberries.
Yeah, basically, he's like, getting 4 or 5 new people a day. He's got like search parties out, recruitment.
Yeah, so that's all
just
the
an
letters.
update. He's reporting back on
Oh, there we go. That's just the contents
what
of
he's
the
been
letter.
up to.
Anyway, Wyramon is there at the end.
This chapter's filled with douches.
Yeah.
Wyramon probably said, are we going to charge at something?
Wyramon had then returned from the procession that was left out for this lot to accept or decline Rand's offer, and he came back with the other men saying that all of them had accepted the offer to join Rand, and that is the end of the chapter.
Right.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, that the soldiers are going to...
The soldiers, the rebels, or the
disband or
the
join
disbanded
them.
riffraff
Yeah, okay.
is now going to join Randland army.
And what it says immediately after that is, they found him laughing till tears rolled down his face. Lews Theron had come back, or else he really was mad already. Either way, it was reason to laugh. Fuck.
Yeah, bro.
Bleak.
There's a lot of nuance in this chapter that I thought would make a great like film moment
Scene.
of, like, if it was done properly, as make a great scene, like a visual scene of no talking and dialogue. Because like when Rand slams his hand down and one of his hands is on the
Dragon
on the
spear.
scepter,
Yeah. Dragon
right?
scepter.
The dragon spear, yeah. Narishma leans forward as he's shouting at everybody. You can see there's like things about Eben's just staring off into nothing, and Narishma is leaning forward and trying to, like looking like, should I attack? Should I back up the Dragon Reborn now? Is he
going to attack? Do I need to back him up?
Yeah. So like there's all there's these feelings in the room, and then like not Dharma.
Dashiva?
Fuck's sake,
Shiva?
Dashiva, that's the guy. Dashiva is constantly like, ha! and then mumbling to himself like, and I thought as well, like, it's cool that Rand just ignores all of these little nuances from these guys, because he just figures they're going mad. Like, what can I say that's going to change it?
It's where he thinks to himself, like, 1 in 50 mad already and more to come. Was more next? Dashiva was surely close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think Eben Hopwill's
All right.
staring out there is to do very much with the happenings of what's disclosed in the previous chapter.
The
It's
shell
a
shock.
16-year-old boy
PTSD, yeah.
just gets out there. He's faced with the very, very strong enemy, a patrol, and destroys every single one of them and every bit of evidence to white ash.
Yeah.
Like, that is... Oh, well, if you didn't get fucked up after Dumai's Wells, that would do it.
Just FYI, my chapter is definitely called Floating Like Snow. Is it different in your book?
Down wrong.
Oh, okay.
Maybe, I don't know. I don't know my
It's floating like
Okay.
snow.
Okay.
Sorry.
I
Like
thought we
floating
found
snow,
another
floating whatever.
discrepancy between prints.
Well, in my book, I saw when talking about the Ilian companions, like the first captain, it doesn't say Tam Althor, it says Tarn, like an RN. I was like, who the fuck is Tarn? Oh,
When you put an R and an N next to each other, maybe they were out of
Yeah.
like the little M blocks.
I don't think that's how they print Kindles.
Oh, it's the Kindle, of course not.
Just a blatant error, just a dumbass error. But there's a lot of stuff we never talked about here because Rand gives like commands at the end, like of this chapter, right? Am I misremembering this chapter?
Really?
Like everyone disperses afterwards. He sends them back because he sends Narishma to go get.
Does he?
Go get Kalandor.
No,
Does that happen here?
no. It's
Dude, I need to go get my Kindle.
no.
Yeah, but this is what he does. This is when it happens. In short order, Hopwill was running for his horse to ride to the ridge with orders for the nobles. Morr and Deshiva to find Flynn and the other Usherman, and Torval was striding off to travel back to the Black Tower with commands for Tame. Narishma was lost, and thinking of Isidine and Seanchan and weapons, Rand sent him away as well, with careful instructions that made the young man's mouth tighten. Speak to no one, Rand finished softly, gripping Narishma's arm hard, and don't fail me, not by a hair. I won't fail, Narishma said, unblinking. With a quick salute, he was gone too.
Wow.
Where did he send Narishma now?
Definitely to
Don't
go fetch
fail me.
Kalandor.
Yeah, that is. How did I miss that?
Telling you.
I forgot that because it's been so long.
Like he kept him until last, grabbed
Yes.
his arm and said, I've got special instructions for you, boy.
Yeah. He who
Don't
follows.
speak to anybody. This is how you unlock all those traps I set.
Yes.
Just grab it, okay?
Yes. Awesome. So what did he send Torval to do? Just back to the Black Tower.
Fuck off back to the Black Tower.
Get the fuck out of my sight.
Do you
Go
remember?
tell Taim.
Do you remember who Torval is? He's the guy when Rand goes to the farm. Gateway's there, and Torval meets him. He's like, "Oh, you're the Dragon Reborn." He sort of gives him a bunch of attitude, and Taim clubs him in the head with a mace of air. That's him. So he's been a shit from the beginning.
But wasn't he of noble birth? Because I get the impression like he's wearing a black
Silk coats and stuff. Yeah, I think
and
he
he
is.
carries himself like.
Yeah.
And when Rand comes into the tent, he's like leaning on the table, looking at all the maps, and Rand's like, "Who the fuck are you?"
Yeah. Well,
can't
he's
just
one.
do this.
He's one of the traitors that tries to kill Rand in Kyrene.
Oh, no doubt.
His fate is pretty cool. Do you want to know how he dies?
Sure, I would love to hear.
Bane's dagger in Farmading.
Nice.
Suck it, Torval. It's what
No
you
one likes
deserve.
Torval.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else, Joe? You guys covered most of what I had. Vil, you mentioned the Blackberry Bush, the Seanchan being ruthlessly efficient at like re-establishing the cities, even the ones that they've attacked and sacked and that sort of thing. You know, they immediately setting up clean hospitals, and you know, like everything starts working in short order, which is depressingly admirable.
That
Covenants.
scene there, we talked about it, but I just want to talk about it again. When Rand's looking at the maps and he's hearing the information from Morr about what they're doing, and like Deshiva, Torval's like, this is bullshit, he's wrong, and then finding out that actually he's wrong and Morr is right. But actually just Rand analyzing the situation.
Yeah.
On the maps, having that tactical mind, going like, all right, if they go along there, because they can't go by sea, the other road is too open. They go through the mountains will block everything, and they're clearing the roads, and they'll have to create like wagons to have a supply train. Like that whole, like he figures out, and they'll be here in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then he sends the
Narishma.
Usherman off. Hopwill
Yeah.
he needs the weapon, so go get the weapon, and he sends the others to go ready the armies, and he's like, whoa, go Rand, you know, he doesn't even need the great captains. Like,
No.
he's got his shit together.
Really impressive. Isn't this also where Rand is like, when he's thinking about the madness, he's thinking about the time that he asked the Finns about, or he's talking about like thinking about cleansing it. He's got an idea of maybe one day he'll cleanse Sidin, and then he doesn't realize that he's been speaking out loud, and all the male channelers are staring at him, and they're all like staring at him in wonder, except Deshiva, who looks completely polaxed. Like, he's like, what? No, you can't. That's the great Lord did that. You can't undo that. That was like our single biggest victory in the War of the Shadow. You know, like that was the best thing we did. All you male channelers are fucked because of this thing. And he is just flabbergasted that Rand would have this idea. And Rand uses, eventually, obviously, we never learn what the riddle is, because he asked the Finns how to cleanse the source, and they give him a riddle in response. He combines that, because he tells Herod Fell what the riddle is, and then Herod Fell tells him, yes, that makes perfect sense, both in, I think, biological and natural philosophy.
Philosophy.
And then Flynn's healing of his wound, and I think either one of you or both of you mentioned when he goes to Shadow Logoth, he notices the matching in the sort of like the beat of his wound and the evil of Shadow Logoth, like they seem to like counterpoint each other all the time. So like there's actually quite a few little clues that he has to like shuffle together and come up with a solution for, and that's how he figures out how to. Does it happen in the next book, like book 9?
Book 9,
yeah. So after he deals with the Sean-Chan here, time to go cleanse the source. And he's thinking about it here already.
Yeah, things don't go quite to plan with dealing with Sean-Chan here. No. But he makes an impression at least.
Maybe, I'm speculating here, I could be proven wrong anytime soon, but like that weirdness of the power, the Ashaman going crazy and all that sort of stuff, maybe that actually spurs him into action. Like, no, I actually really need to go do something about about Sardine. I need to go clean it. And book 9, right? Like that's relatively early days in the series. It feels like, oh, cool. There's still, 5 more books after this in which the source is cleansed. 5 whole books in which Sardine is not driving people crazy. In fact, 9, he figures out how to cure the madness. There's, I don't know. I'm speculating. I shouldn't use, I should use I statements. I always think of this, the taint on Sardine being ever present. It's a fact of life. But yeah, a significant portion of the books are actually, that's not a problem anymore. Rand actually takes care of it. And yeah, Deshiva is just, cannot believe that someone would actually think about doing this. And Deshiva, Agenor is also like a scholar, right? Like he was a biologist and stuff. And he probably is also intrigued by like, whoa, like how does he think he's going to do this? And yeah, it's cool.
And he's there trying to stop it and dies.
Yeah, he's in that fight, yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was like, how is he going to do this? I'm going to go check it out and try and stop him. Bad move, dude. Also, one more thing about this chapter. The serving lady that's inside there. And she hears Rand and all the numbers of the people going mad and dying and everything. And then just the pity on her face. And it's strange because most people around men who can channel are terrified. It's terror and disdain and hatred and fear. Yeah. It's not pity.
Yeah.
And Rand actually sees the pity in her eyes and tells them to fuck off. Like, take your people and get out of here.
Yeah.
And she doesn't get angry with him when he barks at her to leave. She just pities them.
Yeah.
And it's like, because it is a pitiful situation. Yeah. Shame, these poor guys, Someone's finally recognizing their plight.
Yeah, just to elevate up, to bring that part of the taint now, the weirdness. All of this is now sort of bubbling up. Like
working to a point.
The infection in my mouth.
I know. Okay, so let's move ahead then to our final chapter for the episode, which is chapter 15, called Stronger Than Written Law. Joe, what could possibly be stronger than written law?
I don't know. Bunch of stuff. Listen, I was talking so much in that previous chapter, I thought that I had already said this, spoken about this. I didn't realize it was mine now. But I have notes, so don't
Excellent.
Okay. Egwene. We're with Egwene.
Yay!
Yeah, we're heading back to the old crew again. Just we need to hook up with Matt again soon.
This is going to feel better, right?
I'm with Egwene.
Everything's going to be okay. Yeah. Question mark?
Egwene's back. She'll sort it out. She wakes up. This is how we are introduced to her in this chapter. Wakes up from a troubled sleep, fearful dreams that she can't remember, which is weird for her because this is her thing, dreaming.
Yeah.
All right, but she does remember some dreams. And speaking of Rand, Perrin, and Matt, her dreams are about those 3. 1, Rand wearing different masks until suddenly one of those false faces becomes his real face. Perrin and a tinker, Aram, hacking through brambles with an axe and a sword, unaware of a cliff ahead. And the brambles are screaming with human voices they can't hear. Hectic. That's a crazy dream.
That sucks.
And Matt weighing 2 Aes Sedai on scales, his decision having a global impact.
Mm-hmm.
Is one of those Aes Sedai Moiraine?
Yes.
Does he have to choose something in the future between 2 Aes Sedai and he chooses Moiraine?
This is a part of the story that I was never 100% clear on, and I'm hoping this time it makes more sense to me. Varen gives Matt a letter that he's supposed to read at a certain time or not read until a certain time, and he chooses to ignore it and go save Moiraine instead. Like, the 2 Aes Sedai are Varen and Moiraine. And I think Matt fucks up. He does the thing that he was not supposed to do, or doesn't do the thing that Varen expected him to do, and it means that Caemlyn is sacked by Shadowspawn. I don't know if you remember this, but Caemlyn is absolutely
not at all.
Yeah, that happens, and it's because of this dynamic. So when that's what I mean. I'd love to say I remembered all of this. This is when I went to look up the meaning of these dreams. The 2 are Varen and Moiraine. So from the fandom wiki, it says one of the Aes Sedai is definitely Moiraine, as she needed to be rescued by Matt from the Tower of Genji and is needed by Rand for the last battle. The second is Varen. Matt chooses to ignore her letter and to save Moiraine. Due to this, nobody is aware of an active waygate near Caemlyn until Trollocs pass through and threaten the city, as well as the foundries that are creating dragon cannons. So maybe the city is not sacked. Maybe I remember that incorrectly, but yeah, Matt basically allows for Shadowspawn.
It's tact.
Yeah.
And well, the Perrin and Aram one is when they're, trying to rescue Fail, I imagine. He's blind to the screams. He's killing all these people just trying to get to his...
Desperation to find Fail at any cost. And then the cliff, apparently, is Aram's betrayal from Massima's influence.
And then Rand, obviously, fighting...
Many faces.
Sane with all the different many faces.
Lews Therin, Moradin, his own face.
Moradin.
They're all in the mix.
Something to do with those. Yeah, all right. Okay. So, she's awake, actually, because she was awoken by 2 women arguing at her tent flap. It's Halima. When I say 2 women, Halima and Swan. Swan is about to beat the shit out of Halima. Like, she's drawing herself up. I basically got the image in my brain and she's like rolling up her sleeves, like, come here, you bitch. Yeah. I'm going to take you out.
Time to throw down.
And Halima is trying to block her from seeing Egwene. I was like, Halima is not intimidated and is ready to fight back. So to them, of course, this is being weird behavior, but we know why.
Yeah.
Egwene gets out of bed eventually to hear what Swan has to say before this turns into like a cage match or a tent match. And Halima sends Halima to bed, which is a cot in her own tent. And I was like, wow, okay, things have progressed, right? Because, I mean, she knows that Swan's not going to wake her up in the middle of the night for nothing. So this has got to be important. So Egwene dons a thick cloak over her shift and... takes the conversation elsewhere, outside of the tent. Halima is too nosy. She knows this. And if Swan, like I said, is working her in the middle of the night, it's important. And this is not information for forsaken ears. Outside a Booscoat, the ground is covered in snow and ice. Like, so now, like, we're I don't know, I want to say, like, quite a while away from the using of the bowl of the winds, but it may have changed so quickly it could have only just been a week. Who knows? But winter is fully back in control at this point. Turns out Gareth Bryan is waiting for her in her study, which is also just another tent, because they are on the road. They are marching. This is the army that that old Torval wants to destroy.
Yep.
They're on their way, and he's the one that sent Swan to fetch Egwene after snatching her out of her tent in his manly arms and scooping her up on his horse and dropping her off. So off they go back to the tent. On their walk over, Swan warns Egwene about Halima. Like, something's up with this crazy woman. But Egwene needs her head massages, so she's going to keep her around. Sorry. So, again, lots of warnings about these Forsaken right next to you. With their fingertips in your hair. Like, that's
affecting your mind.
And your dreams and messing with you. Yeah, so like Rand and Egwene have these issues. So that I think this is the stretch of the book now where the Forsaken are actually quite competent and, doing a good job. but we know it doesn't last for long.
No.
So we learn as well that Egwene is still in touch with Elaine and Nynaeve through Tela and Riyadh. And they told her when they found the Bowl of the Winds and used the Bowl of the Winds and all of that. So news that she passed on to the sitters. So we're just getting a recap of what has happened in the time that has passed. So when the weather was changed and when the first drizzle started, there was much rejoicing. And there was a party, and Aes Sedai were dancing, and they had a festival. They stopped their march at midday, and everybody just got down, And then that changed, and when that drizzle turned into storms, and then snow, and then blizzards, and now everybody
sleet and ice.
Very unhappy. No one's dancing now.
The wagons are on skis.
Like everything is just fucked. They had already been moving too slowly for Egwene's taste before the weather changed, and now that she says like the distance they used to cover in a day now can take up to 5 days, and then when it's snowing they don't move at all. Like they're stuck. So as they approach the tent/study, Leanne, I like Leanne, yeah, she slinks out of the shadows doing her best water impersonation. She's got a hooded cloak on and everything. No, they didn't see her. Egwene is also like, fuck it, Swan. Like, he thinks to herself, like, you could have told me. I was about to kill this person. Like, I didn't know she was here. But anyway, Leanne's there to keep a watch while they talk out inside the tent and raise the alarm should anyone approach. She uses Egwene uses Saidar to create a ball of weak light in the tent, not to give away their position too much, and then thinks about how much she trusts Gareth. And I was like, oh, me too. I really trust him too. You should trust him more.
Yeah.
Her list of she like thinks to herself, her list of trust goes in this order: Elaine, Nynaeve at the top, then Swan, Leanne, and then Gareth. I was like, wow, that's pretty high up on the list of trust.
Yeah. Well, you should
but
trust
still
the
not high
general
enough.
leading your army.
A noticeable absence of Gawain on that list, I noted. Gareth tells her there is an army 2 days north of them. On their current course of marching, in very slowly, they will meet them. They will go against them, which he advises against. Turns out this army is an Andorran army led by Pelavar and Arethel, with at least 20 other noble houses and all their retainers and horses and cavalry and soldiers and all that, whatnot, all right? So, refresher, these houses are the ones that are loyal to Morghese. These are the good guys. These are the ones who were exiled by Gabriel Ravin back in the day.
Yeah.
And had left Camelin. But, this is a shock to everyone except Egwene. Because this is exactly what she was hoping for. How? When did this happen? I know my memory is terrible. Do we have any forewarning that she was hoping?
No, we don't.
This? Okay, I don't know how this happened, but anyway, maybe it's the world of dreams. She saw stuff and she communicates with people and she found out.
No, she has a plan. She and Swan have concocted a plan. And this helps them along that route.
But she was hoping for this, like hoping for these specific people with this specific army?
I don't think it was these specific people with this specific army, but she was hoping for something like this. It's an opportunity to enact her plan.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go.
That's how I read it.
She was hoping for something good to happen, and that's happening. All right. So Swan asks Gareth if he has any issue fighting his fellow Andorrans, and he's like, he'll fight whoever the amulet tells him to fight. And he already has a plan. Like, if we march towards them now, it's going to be bad because they've got the
but there's a
terrain
spot
in
we
their
can
favor.
retreat
There's a river
to.
over there. Yeah, but if we go back a couple of days, there's a ridge we can keep on, and then like, even Pelavar will know that because he's good. He's a good general. He'll know that it's a bad idea. Even if he had 3 times the amount of people, he wouldn't attack them there. So he's already got a defensive plan. He knows they can't go forward. He's already sussed the situation out. Egwene wants to know if they will talk, like these Andorran people, this army, if they will talk instead of fight. To which Gareth replies, probably. Like, he figures they are only trying to keep Egwene and her army out of Andor. But if forced into a fight, they will fight. Even if it means fighting Aes Sedai.
Yeah.
And Gareth says, and like he also figures that they've also heard the rumors from Ibudar of women who can channel fighting in battles. And of course, the only people in Andor, the only women channelers they know are Aes Sedai, so they would assume it's Aes Sedai who are fighting in battles, and they will take them on if it means keeping them out of Andor. Swan is very unsettled by Gareth this entire time, constantly berating him, and this is puzzling to Egwene. She's like, Swan never lets anyone get under her skin. Like, what's happening with Gareth here? But she's had enough and of this bullshit with them, and she sends Swan to go warm the mulled wine that was left on her desk. I thought this was important, but turns out to be nothing. There's a lot in these chapters of silver pitchers of mulled wine in every chapter. Have you noticed that?
Silver pitcher of
in these
tea.
4 chapters, everyone's got a
think-
silver pitcher of mulled wine.
Okay.
Anyway, maybe just to say it's wintertime.
Yes,
Drinking
yeah.
warm wine now.
It's cold now, everyone.
When they said, like, because she even thinks to herself in this, that shouldn't have been left in. I thought, oh shit, is someone trying to poison her?
That's what
What's
I
the
thought.
Deal with this?
Also, test it
It's
for
nothing.
poison. Just drink it.
But
The old wine.
just give it I don't know. That's nothing.
Okay.
It's just a red heron.
Mm-hmm.
Swan complies. She heats it up a little bit, but only pours for herself and Egwene, making Gareth pour his own glass, his own goblet of wine. They're in the tent, cold tent at night, clutching their warm goblets. Egwene tells Gareth she wants him to go and set up a meeting with these Andorran nobles, and go and arrange it. Oh, yeah, and keep it secret from the hall, which he's totally cool with, even if it means he might be executed for treason. Like, he's not a dumbass. He knows what the consequences would be, but he's like,
He knows
all
there's
right,
friction
I'll do that.
between Egwene and the Hall, and he's made his bet on Egwene.
Yeah, and we read about that in the last book. They'd ride by themselves to go, I think, to go and take her
He
to...
gave her the sort of like
to Lan.
the not so subtle, like, I follow you, eminent seat.
Yeah.
Like, he made it clear.
So, he's thrown his lot in with her, and she's not... He's in 100%, but Egwene's not in 100%.
On him?
So with the meeting over... Yeah, we talk about it here. I'll get to it. Just give me two paragraphs and I'll get there.
But what?
With the meeting over, she lets the ball of light disappear. But before Gareth leaves, she also grabs him by the arm, which is like a tree trunk underneath his coat, and asks him how much time he'd like to rest his army before they begin the siege of Tarvalon. So she's thinking ahead now, like, surely after all this marching, especially in these conditions, we're going to need some rest time. He's like, man, I would love a month of rest and preparation and everything, but I'll take 10 days if I can get it. But we're not going to have either of those, because Elida will know this army is coming long before we get there, and she'll be ready. She's not going to give us a second to settle or anything.
No.
And I don't know if you've heard, but she's increasing the size of the Tower Guard to at least 50,000 men. So... we know that is Elviaran,
Yes.
who's pushing for that, but they think it's Elida. Like, so she's prepping for something. It looks very like she knows what's going on already. So Gareth leaves as he needs to send the riders to meet with Pelivar and Arathel, and it's a long ride. He's got shit to sort out. So in the tent with Swan, Egwene mutters something to herself, like, better for us if they believed, which threw me completely, but it's the stories about the Seanchan, all right? Because it would make them less eager to fight. So if they believe the stories about the Seanchan being, the Damane being Aes Sedai, they would be less likely to get into a battle with Aes Sedai, So it took me a while to figure this out during my notes. But there it is. I've summarized it for you guys. And she hopes, and I quote, that she can free the Aes Sedai from the 3 oaths, which Swan is scandalized by. It would destroy the White Tower. Like, Swan gives a whole speech here, which opened my eyes as well, gave me a whole new perspective on it as well. But she thinks it would destroy the White Tower. But Egwene means that it would be better if the Aes Sedai could fight freely with the One Power when it came time to face the Seanchan, for example, without having to have their lives in danger first. Otherwise, they'd all be dead or collared. She's been there. she's never going back. This is, she would rather destroy the 3 oaths than get a collar on her neck ever again. But Egwene reminds the shocked Swan that she has also been Swan has also been taking advantage of not being bound by the 3 oaths, and she was deposed and stilled and released from them. Like, it was her lies that got Egwene raised to Amlin in the first place about, the Red Arch and all of that. So don't come talk to me about Loghain and all of that shit. Like, so don't come talk to me about, the 3 oaths and lies not being super handy when you want them to be. So, if anyone's going to destroy the tower, it's the Seanchan. I mean, Elida. It's Elida that's going to destroy the tower, like not us, by destroying like letting go of the three oaths. And she'd not know how to, like, Elida won't know how to handle Rand. And she says here as well, like, I wouldn't even be surprised if Elida's tried to kidnap Rand already. Or, like, at least not maybe kidnap, but, like, whoa, totally
actually
tried to kidnap Rand. Like, in the worst possible way of kidnapping somebody. But listen, how does she not know about this? She's talking through the world of dreams with so many people, with the wise ones. Weren't the wise ones specifically keeping this news from her?
Yes,
they were keeping a lot from her.
It just came to me right now. Yeah.
Also, the wise one's opinion of Aes Sedai in general now shot. They're not going to be sharing that information. And there's actually a mention in this chapter about a battle out east somewhere, which I think was Dumai's Wells.
Yeah.
So, like,
probably
bits of it are floating about, but yeah, certainly no one that was there is sharing anything directly with the Salazar Aes Sedai.
Yeah. Okay. Cleared up in a second. Had the thought. Sorted out the thought. All right. So Swan is very aware of her lies. Like, she's like, yeah, I know I've been lying. All right. And I'm very careful about it and terrified of it because I know, like, if I push it too far, I'm going to lose myself.
Yeah.
In these lies, I'm going to lose control. And as soon as she can, she's going to re-swear the oaths. As soon as they are back in the tower and they have an oath rod, she's swearing them again. And she goes on to explain that the oaths are what make Aes Sedai more than just a group of meddling women of women meddling in world affairs who can channel, They hold them together. This is what makes Aes Sedai and not just wilders. Like, a wilder can channel, but it doesn't make them an Aes Sedai.
Yeah.
It's a common thread, like from the first Aes Sedai, well, in their memories, the first Aes Sedai, until the last Aes Sedai, till the current Aes Sedai, that holds this lineage together is these three oaths. And Egwene's like, why would you give up your freedom? But her counter argument is that the three oaths actually give them more freedom. There's few places in the world that an Aes Sedai can't go and be listened to because people know that they are bound by these oaths.
Yeah.
And that people will give them the time of day and will attend to them in court and all of that stuff, like nobles and everyone in the world will give Aes Sedai some leeway. So they've got a lot of freedom because of these three oaths and not the other way around, which is all eye-opening to me. I had a great time reading and summarizing this. So I'm like, all right, I have a new respect.
And then they take all of their words and just twist it so that they can say what they don't really mean. It's like we got this magic rod that makes you not able to lie. And then we've got this game, Dias Damar, that allows you to do other stuff. You can always lie through someone else.
Yeah, man. Don't hate the player, hate the game.
This speech has the same effect on Egwene as it did on you, Joe, and on me here, because later in the story, Egwene is also, she's solidly convinced the three oaths are what make the Aes Sedai. So when she starts leading the tower again, she makes everyone re-swear the three oaths and like all the Aes Sedai that she'd raised without the thing, and she swears them as well. She's picking up what Swan is putting down here.
Also, something else I didn't take note of this, but there's times in this chapter as well that Egwene's like, why didn't you tell me that? And Swan's like, listen, I'm not holding stuff back from you. It's just like I have like thousands of years of knowledge and 20 years of experience, 10 of which as Amerlin's seat in my brain. I can't dump this all on you. Like, I've got to sift it out and see what's relevant for the moment we're in and stuff. So like, there's a lot of info, and you've only been Amerlin for like 5 weeks. Like, I'll get to it, right? Yeah. So I mean, she's explained to Egwene and convinced Egwene and myself and Moritz and everyone, Willie. Willie's not quite convinced about the three oaths. But what she doesn't have an answer for is the Seanchan. All right? She's like, well, listen, when the Seanchan come, we'll just have to fucking deal with it then, I suppose. But the Aes Sedai have survived the Trolloc Wars. We've survived the White Cloaks. We've survived Arthur Hawkwing. We'll survive the Seanchan. The specifics of how, we don't know yet, but we'll sort it out when we get there. All right. Before they both call it a night, Swan tells her that she can trust Gareth. Like, listen, you're not 100% in with this guy. He's thrown his lot in with you, and it's tearing him up inside that you don't trust him that, like, fully. And he's following you out of trust. But if he knew more of your plans, he would understand them better. He'd be a better asset. Swan tells Egwene that he hides his feelings from her, but Swan can tell that he's very uncomfortable with these like manipulations and half-truths and not being fully in the circle. And that's when it clicks for Egwene. She's all like, woo, Swan and Gareth sitting in a tree. And she's got it. And she tells her, like, all right, watch your tongue around him. Like, if you're in love with this man, she knows, like, one of the lines she uses there is, like, a woman will leave her brain on the shelf when she's around a man that she loves,
And then quickly thinks
true.
of Gawain.
It works both ways as well. It's not just women leaving their brains on the shelf. But before they head to bed, there's one last stop that they need to make. Swan is to wake up Beonin. Yes, Beonin.
Hello.
Anaya, Morel, and send them north to the Andorran army. This is like, all right, because if it's going to take like 2 days to march up there and give them for Gareth to get there and get them to agree to a meeting, the Aes Sedai are already on their way.
Yeah.
And ready to chat. And with the 5 warders that those 3 Aes Sedai have between them, they should be able to find said army, because she didn't want to ask where it was from Gareth, because they would give away her idea, because Gareth is too smart for that shit. He would suss it out. So you guys go up there and so that when we get the agreement ready, you guys are like a few hours away. You'll be there by the night. So she is going to go and talk, have a chat with old Sheriam, Carlinia, Morven, and Nisau, so that by morning at breakfast time, they'll be chatting with the other Aes Sedai and planting seeds for Egwene's new plan adapted. So let the manipulations begin. And that's how the chapter ends.
Yes, much manipulation to come. It was actually these Egwene chapters that had me turning the page the whole time and made me read ahead. Because you can sense what's coming. Yeah. Phil?
No, I don't. Jody actually did a fantastic job of that chapter. I understand more after listening to him than I understood about reading it. So it's he's done a good job.
Thank you very much.
There's a couple chapters like that coming up that is actually like all very theory and planning. And
not a lot of actioning, not a lot of kicking doors and taking names.
No. Hitting things with swords or throwing fireballs. No.
But yes, there's a very, very juicy moment in there for me that is earmarked as a particular moment for me. But I'll wait for us to get there.
Soon.
Jody picks up book, scavenging.
Oh, shit. I forgot about it again. It seems unlikely that I would after so much time, but I swear to God, I never remember. Okay, continue. Moritz, what did you have to say?
It's never been a problem, so that's okay. All
right.
When Egwene wakes up from her dreams, she thinks to herself about Matt specifically. Recently, all of her dreams about Matt were pale and full of pain, like shadows cast by nightmares, almost as though Matt himself were not quite real. Oxhead medallion?
But
apparently it shields
is...
his dreams, so she can't see his dreams, so maybe it actually shields her prophetic dreams about him as well. It's something I read on the fandom wiki, not something that I came up with by myself. But yeah, it's just an odd thing to say. Like shadows cast by nightmares, almost as though Matt himself were not quite real. Could be maybe because of like his blending with his memories, and like he is actually many men's lifetimes all rolled up into one now. Full of pain, like battle memories. Maybe like Matt's consciousness.
Well, the last we saw of him, a wall fell on him. So it could be like
physical pain
right now.
Totally. Yeah. Interesting. Egwene has only asked Nisau to look into her headaches. The only yellow she's asked for healing. Because Nisau is one of those that has sworn fealty to her. She was the one that was with Morel when they were nursing, quote unquote, nursing land back to health. She was there with Morel.
Yep.
Plus, Halima's actually the one creating the headaches. So Nisau and no other Aes Sedai stands any chance of actually curing them because they are made from sardine. Egwene is finding it easier to take a tone with Swan. Like when she talks to her, like in a specific tone, she thinks to herself it's becoming easier and easier to do that. I mean, it wasn't long ago they were standing in her study in the White Tower, getting ordered around and stuff. The tide has turned. What else? Oh, she mentions here, like in her interchange or exchange with Swan. Swan says, I know you think yourself a Sorel Bragand or Gera Kishar. Let's hope you don't end up as a Shane Chunla. Of course, I had to go see who these people were, and as you can imagine, they are old eminent seats. So here's a quick breakdown of who each of those are. So Sorel Bagand was not particularly strong in the One Power for a sitter, but despite it, she became one of the most influential Aes Sedai in the last millennium due to her fierce personality, morality, sternness, and severity. She used that toughness and discipline and became one of the greatest eminents in history, raising the influence and prestige of the White Tower to levels seldom equaled since before Arthur Hawkwing. It was said that Sorel controlled the tower by sheer force of will. She couldn't stand Cadsuane, because like herself, Cadsuane had an air of control and confidence. They both expected subservience from each other, and therefore they would constantly butt heads with each other. Despite this, Cadsuane thwarted a planned coup to overthrow Sorel. The conspirators, thinking that they would gain support from Cadsuane, who was Sorel's biggest adversary, went to Cadsuane to gain her support. This was a mistake. Cadsuane dragged them to the Amerlin's office herself. Sorel wasn't particularly pleased to obtain help from someone she despised. The first part is relevant to this conversation, but because Cadsuane was in there, I thought, throw that in there as well.
Like, yeah, they're both from Farmadding. They're just
maybe,
and they also same level. They never broke one above the other.
The other one, Gera Kishar, is a bit shorter. She was later on considered an Amerlin as successful as Sorel Bagand as one of the greatest Amerlins, but instead of iron will, Gera used political prowess to turn the different groups of the Hall of the Tower against each other. She was a political maneuverer, and that is specifically relevant here, where Egwene is basically pitted against the tower, the Hall of the Tower, right? Like it's the Hall trying to manipulate her, and Egwene having to play, timid and stuff while she can. Now there's this event with these people happening on the border. This is going to help her in her plan to actually seize control of the hall itself as well. Now, the one that Swan says she hopes she does not turn out like is Shane Chunla. She was the youngest Amerlin since Diane Ariman, raised 7 centuries earlier. She was the Amerlincy during the Third War of Garen's Wall. Don't know what that is. It is widely believed by historians that she completely mishandled the situation and caused the war. It is also believed she died in the White Tower of natural causes. However, in the secret histories held in the 13th Depository of the Tower Library, it has been recorded that Shane Chunla was controlled by the Hall of the Tower during this time. Shane had attempted to rule the tower with an iron hand, a plan that initially worked, but the Hall took control of her by punishing her with mortifications of both flesh and spirit as a reply to everything she said and did, heavily mishandling the situation. The Hall and the Arger heads had catfights over authority, and each faction of the Hall also had its own motives and causes, pulling the tower in different directions. Eventually, the sisters themselves rose up and pulled Shane and the Hall down in one of the 6 mutinies in tower history. Shane was smothered to death 50 years later while in exile after a plot to restore her to the Amerlin seat was discovered, and the entire story hidden away in the 13th Depository.
I think it was after the 6th attempt to restore her or something. Like it was multiple attempts she made
because
to get back in power.
She's a puppet, right? So like sitters and Arger heads and stuff are trying to instate her to control her. So again, very relevant to Egwene's situation here, like this power struggle between the Hall and the Amerlin itself. So yeah, I found that was pretty interesting. I like that.
It was cool. Yeah.
I mean, RJ just throws the names out there. In other places in the story or in the Wheel of Time Companion, I don't know where all this stuff comes up, but it's documented lore. And when you go read it, it's like, yes, this is exactly how it applies to Egwene in her current situation, which is really great.
A lot of that was in this chapter.
Oh, did they say all that?
Explaining who these women were. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I stand corrected.
But you gave extra information that wasn't in these chapters.
Very well. Then mission accomplished.
There you go.
Okay, so after that history lesson, let's look back in history to find our favorite moments. Jody, what's your favorite moment?
Why are you doing this? Don't do this. I'm probably going to go with Rand at the tent.
Oh, yeah. Torval.
Like Torval, that whole thing, and all the dynamic, the nuance happening in the tent, and Rand, especially with that map, like figuring shit out and like making a plan, and then go out there, you go there, you go there, and then like sending Narishma to go fetch Calandor.
Yeah, huge.
I like that.
Okay, so here we go. So I had just flippantly said in a previous episode, I wonder if they end up fighting somewhere near where the Bowl of Winds was used, but if it's in the mountains somewhere between Ilion and Altara, it's probably not. I mean, the Bowl of Winds was used 30 miles north of the city, right? Like they could see the city from the hill they were standing on. Hopwill, is it Hopwill that says it? Or Morr? Morr was in Ibudar saying that there's a weirdness in the power. You were saying as far as like 100 miles from Ibudar. So
that would be the further distance.
I'm keen to see where this battle in the mountains.
But also,
yeah, these mountains probably further than 100 miles.
Did it like do multiple gateways, like gateway jumping? Oh, okay, I'll go to that spot there.
Who knows how he scouted around there?
He did.
Interested to see where that battle takes place exactly. Willie, how about you?
I didn't particularly enjoy this very, I'm going to call it academic chapters. There's a lot of learning. There's a lot of board placing. But in between, there's smatterings of a little bit of action. And I think I'm just missing a bit of good action. So I've got a few standout things. The movement of generals, and a specific one, Gareth Bryn. His planning, his trust, everything for me stood out. Like he knew exactly, he goes past something and he already just decides that would be a great spot for that. And just mental markers to the vast area that can become a battlefield. The General of the Dark also gets a shout out. Shaidar Haran, and the snapping of necks. Grendel has got a tremendous amount of pride in her pets, and him shutting up the birds through absolute fear. I didn't know the dark can control songbirds, but they shut up, and then snapping the necks was quite visceral and well explained.
Because he hasn't even said anything at that point. He's just walked into the room, murdered these two people, and then addresses Grendel.
He speaks when he's behind her, and then comes out, and is like described as the sound of grinding up stones. Which is,
but it was so nonchalant and so like
nonchalant.
Just like, I'm just
snapping necks.
Fuck these necks.
These necks, they gone. Yes, and of course Rand being a general himself. And like Jody said, the studying of the maps, knowing the lay of the land, understanding the stories of the ocean, of the area. And I mean, the Shonchan are sailors. They sailed to and fro. You'd think that they're just going to follow the same technique. And
hither and yon.
Yeah, sail across again. But no, they've got real plans, and he spots their thinking as a general.
Yeah.
The complete Torval completely writes off them getting wagons, and he makes a stupid joke about them getting wagons. What are they going to market? And he's like, no, you dumbass, armies need food. You obviously don't know how to move an army. Just look at what I'm moving around with. I know these things eat the whole time. It's like having kids, big kids with swords. And the horses that they ride, they eat as well. They need oat.
Yeah.
And all the camp follower-ons, Klinger honors, the farriers, and
all the farriers,
the cooks, and the
many
washers, the washerwomen,
families,
the
washerwomen, and everybody.
Priests.
Those tents aren't setting themselves up.
Bodies. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the tent setter-uppers.
Mine would have to be the meeting of CadSwain and Sorilea. Like,
I knew it was going to be that.
I didn't even hide the fact. I mean, it was in my intro. I homed in on it during the meeting, but it was very fucking cool. Like just Sorilea coming out on top. You know, it's very rare that you see someone come out on top. And it's not like she dominated CadSwain at all, but she manipulated her. She set the tone of the conversation. CadSwain stood up when she came in. Sorilea initiated the talk. You know, like she was there and she made the speech. She said the things and then showed her traveling, put ThenCadsuane in her debt and then did the water oath and left. Like mission accomplished, dusting off their hands. Okay, what next? Who else am I going to go sort out? And then my honorable mentions are Grendel making Shadowharan laugh and Rand both muttering about cleansing Sidin in front of Agenor and like just his reaction to it. And then just also, as we covered it, that scene where Rand's hand is on the spear and his arm is physically trembling with the urge to stab Torval through the heart. Like, that is so hectic. And such a window.
There was a moment there, because a lot of this is like distance memory to me. Like from here, it really gets murky. I'm getting into the murky parts.
Yeah.
The real murky
and it's
parts
great. That's exciting.
And I wish that, like, I'm like, just please, just make an example of him. So maybe Deshiva can go like, oh shit, maybe I should not belt out profanities the whole time and speak in the old tongue. But it didn't happen. I was disappointed.
Don't worry, he gets a Paden Fane blade. He meets his end. So to our listeners, send in your favorite moments, your theories, corrections, or questions of your own. You can do so by using my email address in the episode description or tweeting us at bloodandashpod. You can even leave us a voice note on our website at bloodandashespodcast.com and we can play it on the show. Also, please rate our podcast or write a review depending on which podcast app you use. And then once you've done all of that and bought a sweet Beefy Boy t-shirt from our store, you can prepare for next time on Blood and Ashes, where we will cover chapter 16, called Unexpected Absences, through to chapter 19, The Law. Dun, dun, dun.
I am the law.
Yeah, so next time, Law and Order. Dun, dun. Well, until then, I will say to you though, sleep well and wake.
Goodbye.
Very good evening.